The years spent with the landlady. A vigorous young man encountered a charming woman in her 30s. Li Ming worked a job while renting a place to save money for his father's medical bills. To his surprise, the landlady turned out to be the mother of his high school friend. One day, the landlady asked Li Ming to change a light bulb. While doing so, he noticed that her refrigerator was malfunctioning and fixed it as well. Suddenly, he saw something strange. Fixed the refrigerator once, reward, plus 150, strength plus 1. Changed the light bulb once, reward, plus 30, strength plus 3. Level experience plus 200, level, LV2. Reward settlement, plus 180 times 2 is equal to 360 yuan. The landlady realized that Li Ming was a versatile person, so she started introducing him to her close friends. During the day, Li Ming unclogged toilets, fixed air conditioners, and replaced large light bulbs for the ladies. At night, he joined them for flower arranging, mopping floors, and cleaning windows. Li Ming, the toilet at my place is clogged again, could you come over and fix it tonight? Chapter 1, Scumbag. Stop eyeing my mom. Scumbag. I treated you like a brother, and you're making a move on my mom. Zhao Zinan roared furiously over the phone. I was just helping her unclog a toilet. Then why were you in her room for 3 hours? Zhao Zinan shouted in rage. I was just changing a light bulb. Just changing a light bulb? Do you even hear yourself? Who takes 3 hours to change a bulb? And why weren't you wearing pants? Explain yourself. Zhao Zinan was on the verge of losing his mind, as if he was ready to leap out of the phone and attack. Li Ming sighed and explained, my pants got wet while unclogging the toilet, so your mom told me to take them off and wash them. What was I supposed to do? Li Ming, I'm warning you, don't even think about making a move on my mom. I'll check the surveillance cameras, and if I find out you're up to anything, you can get out of my house and we're done. Zhao Zinan threatened furiously. The call ended with the beeping sound of a disconnected line. Li Ming frowned, sighed, and felt a wave of frustration and helplessness. His father had suffered a brain hemorrhage and had undergone surgery through alone, but might never wake up again. He was now in a regular hospital room, kept alive with medication, with plans to be discharged in a month. To pay for his father's medical bills and clear the debt, Li Ming had taken a break from school to work. Coincidentally, his high school friend's family had an empty room for rent. After negotiating with his friend, they agreed to only charge him half the usual rent. Li Ming moved in, but when the landlady, Aunt Zhao, learned about his situation, she decided not to charge him rent at all. Zhao Huiya and Zhao Zinan weren't related by blood. She was his adoptive mother. Zhao Huiya, at 34, was an elegant and attractive woman, the kind whose mature charm could captivate someone with just one glance. Today, she had asked Li Ming to help unclog the toilet and change a light bulb, and they ended up chatting about his situation and future plans. However, Zhao Zinan, who was studying abroad in Singapore, saw the whole thing on surveillance and misunderstood, leading to his warning-filled call, fearing that Li Ming had ulterior motives towards his mom. How ridiculous! With his father gravely ill and the family in debt, Li Ming had no choice but to rely on Aunt Zhao's hospitality. He didn't dare raise his voice to Zhao Zinan. Ding! Ha! Li Ming frowned and opened WeChat. Shen Wenlian, let's break up. Li Ming, but I'm good at it. Shen Wenlian, we're breaking up. You're too poor. Li Ming, but I'm good at it. Shen Wenlian, being good at it doesn't pay the bills. If you're that good, why don't you work in the industry? We're done. Li Ming, we can break up, but let's book a hotel and talk it over first. Shen Wenlian, you still dare ask for more? Li Ming, we're already breaking up. Isn't it fair for me to get a little interest back? Ding. Shen Wenlian, WeChat transfer, 250. 0 yuan, note, for the poor loser. Li Ming accepted the payment without hesitation and typed the word B*TCH, but the message didn't go through, marked only by a glaring red exclamation mark. Click. Click. Puff. He lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and exhaled slowly. Expressionless, Li Ming scrolled through his WeChat messages, finding that most were from relatives urging him to repay debts, worried that if his father died, he'd skip out on payments. Suddenly, Li Ming's vision blurred, and he saw some strange messages. Unclogged toilet once, reward plus, strength plus 1. Changed light bulb once, reward plus 13. 6, strength plus 3. Moved items once, reward plus 125. 0, strength plus 15. Level experience plus 200, level, LV2. Li Ming instinctively rubbed his eyes, and then heard a ding as his phone screen lit up with a new text message. China Industrial and Commercial Bank. Your account ending in 0578 completed a payment transaction on September 15. Amount, 562. 2 yuan. Balance, 572. 2 yuan. This. Li Ming's heartbeat quickened as he stared at the bank's message. Could it be a scam? But how could a scammer know exactly what he did today, unclogging a toilet, changing a light bulb, and working as a mover? Verification. He had to find a way to verify it. If it was real, then he could finally cover his loan and his father's medical expenses and wouldn't need to rely on others. Li Ming paced back and forth in his room, completely lost on how to verify it. Ding! Another WeChat message popped up. Li Ming picked up his phone to check. Aunt Zhao, Xiaoming, are you still awake? My refrigerator's been making strange noises and occasionally loses power. Could you come over tomorrow to take a look if you're free? Fixing the fridge? Li Ming was stunned at first, then overjoyed. Just what I needed. After thinking it over, he quickly replied, Aunt Zhao, I'm still awake. I might not have time tomorrow. I brought some local specialties from home that I forgot to give you earlier. I'll bring them over now and take a look at the fridge while I'm there. Seeing the typing indicator, he patiently waited for a few seconds. Ding! Ding! 2 messages appeared simultaneously, and Li Ming quickly read them. Oh, local specialties. You're so thoughtful. Thank you. It would be great if you could come over. I ordered some late-night snacks, so you can join me when you get here. Li Ming quickly replied, okay, I'm on my way. He threw on some floral shorts and a black tank top, grabbed a couple of red plastic bags filled with local specialties from his suitcase, and rushed out. Li Ming had to verify if this was real. If it was, he wanted to stay up all night working to earn more. He was too desperate for money, being poor had made him fearful. As for whether Zhao Zinan would misunderstand again and think he was after his mom, that no longer mattered. Money can solve 99% of the world's problems, and without it, everything else is just talk. 15 minutes later, Li Ming parked a shared bike at his destination, costing him a small fee. Haiwei Bay. One of Jiangqing's luxury residential areas, built around Haiwei Lake, with buildings scattered across the low hills that are rare in Jiangcheng. From the upper floors, you could see the clear lake water, pavilions, and the entire night view of Jiangcheng. Li Ming looked at the stylishly designed buildings, warmly lit, and the luxury cars and high-performance off-road vehicles parked on the roadside. Every time he came here, Li Ming couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Carrying the red plastic bags, he walked to the security booth. The security guard was a woman, and her demeanor was anything but ordinary. Her posture was upright, and she had a sharp gaze, clearly someone with a military background. The female guard stepped out, her sharp eyes scanning Li Ming with suspicion before focusing on the red plastic bags in his hands. You're not a resident. I haven't seen you before. What's in those bags? She asked with a frown. Li Ming was surprised. Security in rich neighborhoods really is different. He explained, I'm here to fix a refrigerator. Lifting the red plastic bags, he added, these are local specialties. Do you want to check them? The female guard frowned and took the bags, inspecting them closely. She found some homemade cured meat and packaged red tea. She questioned, this is Haiwei Bay. Are you sure you've got the right place? I don't think there's anyone you're looking for here. Li Ming caught the underlying message but didn't take offense. Given his attire, he really did look out of place in the surroundings. He's with me, a gentle voice called out. Li Ming turned to see Zhao Huiya gracefully approaching. Her silk nightgown swayed lightly in the evening breeze, exuding a unique allure. She smiled and took Li Ming's hand, leading the still-dazed young man into Haiwei Bay. The security guard frowned, doubting Li Ming's explanation. In the dead of night, a woman in a nightgown and a man in shorts and slippers, bringing local specialties to fix a fridge? Who would believe that? We're all adults here, there's no need for such a ridiculous excuse. The female guard watched Zhao Huiya's elegant figure recede and muttered, your kid, huh? Sure knows how to play. Bringing you local specialties at this hour. Chapter 2, Auntie's Sweet Mouth. Zhao Huiya walked ahead. Li Ming followed closely behind, catching a whiff of her fragrance. She swayed her hips as she walked, her elegant figure moving with a subtle rhythm. As a young man full of energy, Li Ming couldn't help but sneak a few glances. No wonder Zhao Zinan, all the way in Singapore, angrily called him in a panic. With such mature beauty, it would be hard for any man to resist having fantasies about her. Li Ming quickly averted his eyes, only to see two graceful figures approaching.
Ha! Li Ming! What are you doing here?
Don't tell me, you've turned to that kind of work, a familiar voice exclaimed, carrying a tone of surprise and disbelief.
Two tall girls stood in front of Li Ming and Zhao Huiya.
One wore a pink dress with a low ponytail, light makeup, and a low-cut camisole. The other was in a tight black dress, with refined makeup that gave her a seductive charm, her eyes seemingly glistening with moisture. Li Ming looked up in surprise at the girl in the pink dress but said nothing.
Shen Wenlian glanced at Li Ming's oversized slippers and the red plastic bags in his hand.
Crossing her arms in front of her chest, she sneered with disdain flashing in her eyes.
Li Ming, you really are something. You always deliver on your promises. I am genuinely surprised. Zhao Huiya frowned and asked, do you know each other?
Li Ming responded, she looks familiar, but I don't know her. I recognize someone else, though one who's been dead for many years. Upon hearing this, Zhao Huiya's beautiful face took on a peculiar expression as she calmly said, oh.
With that, they walked past Shen Wenlian without even glancing at her. Standing still, Shen Wenlian's chest heaved in anger.
She had experienced Li Ming's sharp tongue before. It was venomous. Turning around furiously, Shen Wenlian shouted, you'll never amount to more than a gigolo in this life. Hearing that, Zhao Huiya stopped and turned back, her eyebrows furrowed.
Li Ming chuckled and said, let's go, auntie. Let the dog bark on its own.
Zhao Huiya was taken aback but then smiled and shook her head. Shen Wenlian gritted her teeth, at a loss for words, and could only watch them leave. After 2 years together, Shen Wenlian knew Li Ming's mouth too well. She could never out-argue him. 5 minutes later, Li Ming arrived at Zhao Huiya's home, a 150 square meter apartment with 4 bedrooms, 1 living room, 1 kitchen, and 2 bathrooms. The decor wasn't extravagant, but it was elegant. On the living room table was the latest Apple laptop and a pile of documents, along with fresh fruit, barbecue, a small steak, and crayfish Zhao Huiya had ordered. Zhao Huiya said, Xiao Ming, let's eat something first. Li Ming was focused on verifying whether the mysterious panel was real, so he shook his head and said, Aunt Zhao, you eat first. I'll go fix the fridge. Without waiting for her to say anything, he headed straight to the kitchen. Zhao Huiya was stunned for a moment, wondering why Li Ming seemed more concerned about the fridge than she was. She followed him and smiled, saying, you're such a considerate kid. Auntie isn't in a hurry to use the fridge. Come eat first and fix it later. Li Ming didn't even look back, opening the fridge to inspect it. He said firmly, Auntie, you've had a long day at work. I can't let this fridge affect your rest. You go eat, and I'll take care of it. Zhao Huiya smiled warmly. Thank you, Xiao Ming. Zhao Huiya gave him a bright smile. That's the right attitude. Come, let's eat. With that, she swayed her hips and led Li Ming to the living room, where they started eating crayfish, steak, and barbecue. Li Ming was also hungry, and since Zhao Huiya hadn't eaten all day, the two devoured everything in just 15 minutes. After finishing the meal, Li Ming looked at the mess on the table, and an idea sparked in his mind, cleaning. With that thought, he quickly began clearing the trash from the table, leaving Zhao Huiya in stunned silence. She commented, Xiao Ming, you're really hard-working. What are you doing? She watched as Li Ming rushed into the kitchen to grab a cloth, eager to start cleaning. Li Ming responded seriously, Auntie, the table is a bit dusty, let me wipe it clean for you. Zhao Huiya was taken aback. She couldn't help but laugh and said, no need, Auntie will clean it tomorrow. She stood up and tried to take the cloth from him. Li Ming quickly snatched it back, insisting, Auntie, you've had a long day at work. Let me handle this small task. Without waiting for her to speak, he began wiping the coffee table, the dining table, the TV, and even the cups. Zhao Huiya stood frozen, watching Li Ming busy himself with cleaning. She couldn't understand it at all. Does this kid really care that much about me? 7 or 8 minutes later, under Zhao Huiya's puzzled gaze, Li Ming hurried to the bathroom to grab a mop and started mopping the kitchen and living room floors. She opened her mouth to stop him but saw how serious and focused he was. Li Ming even got down on the floor to reach the corners he couldn't get with the mop. He was so focused, it was as if he wasn't mopping but doing something monumental. Zhao Huiya was dumbfounded. She didn't dare interrupt his concentration. 30 minutes later, the entire house was spotless and sparkling clean. Looking at the bright and tidy home, Zhao Huiya smiled.
She finally found an explanation for Li Ming's baffling behavior. Maybe he's repaying me for not charging him rent. Holding them up, Li Ming suddenly had a gleam in his eye as he muttered, "Yes, yes, it really works." Zhao Huiya was startled. Her smile froze as she approached him with concern, grabbing his hand. "Li Ming, are you okay?" Li Ming looked up, his eyes shining as he replied, "I'm fine." "Auntie, do you have any clothes that need washing? I can help you wash them." "You want to help me do laundry too?" Zhao Huiya was confused and a bit shocked. She had lived alone for many years and never let a man into her home. And laundry, in her view, was something personal and private. She chuckled and said, "All my clothes are already clean." Li Ming hesitated, then pointed at her snug nightgown and said, "Auntie, your clothes are a bit dirty. If you don't mind, I can wash them for you." Zhao Huiya frowned and looked down at her nightgown. There were 2 small oil stains on the chest area. Chapter 3, Auntie has a dog. Whoosh! The little yellow bike sped towards Section C, No. 23. In less than 2 minutes, Li Ming arrived at Villa No. 23 in Section C. From a distance of about 10 meters, he spotted a middle-aged man waiting downstairs, waving at him. As he got closer, he saw that the man was wearing gold-rimmed glasses and was slightly overweight. The man had a mole on his left temple, held a sealed document bag in one hand, and was on the phone with the other. Li Ming stopped in front of him and waited for him to finish his call. "President Ming, don't worry. This time, we will definitely swallow up Zhixing technology." "Yes, alright," the man said before hanging up the phone 2 minutes later. Seeing Li Ming in slippers, shorts, and a tank top, the man looked dissatisfied and said, "Don't you have proper gear? You look very unprofessional." Li Ming chuckled and replied, "This outfit is top tier in the industry. They call me the crowdsourcing master. Trust me, I'm definitely professional." Still unconvinced, the man adjusted his glasses and said, "Crowdsourcing? You won't steal my delivery along the way, will you? The destination is 8 kilometers away. If you deliver it within 10 minutes, I'll tip you 100 yuan. Without a word, Li Ming grabbed the document bag, twisted the handlebars, crouched down, and zoomed away at full speed. 10 minutes later, at the security booth at the Wisdom New World, Tianli building, Li Ming clicked delivered. He was familiar with this route and knew shortcuts that cut travel time in half. 2 minutes later, as he scanned through new orders and checked his earnings, the middle-aged man had indeed tipped him 100 yuan, proving to be trustworthy. Li Ming continued taking orders one after another until 4 a.m. Returning to his place, he parked the little yellow bike. In 4 hours, he had completed 10 orders, with one large order earning him a 100 yuan tip. In total, he made 476. 4 yuan. Excited, Li Ming opened the settlement panel. Housework completed once, plus 120. 0 yuan, plus 5 strength, plus 15 experience. 10 deliveries completed, plus 476. 4 yuan, plus 12 strength, plus 10 experience. Level, LV2, 227, 2000 experience. Li Ming smiled. Adding the previous night's earnings, the 1000 yuan Zhao Huiya had given him, and the 176. 4 yuan from the delivery platform, he had worked from midnight until 4 a.m., a total of 28 hours. His total income was 1652. 8 yuan. Currently, his level is still too low. If he were level 10, he'd be earning 23,000 yuan. At level 100, it would be 230,000 yuan. At level 1000. On May 14, 2025, at 7 a.m., the alarm clock rang sharply. After just 3 hours of sleep, Li Ming quickly got up. He had to take care of his father. In Jiangcheng City, Yujiang District, at the Second People's Hospital. At 7:20 a.m., Li Ming arrived precisely at Ward 806 on the 8th floor. Skillfully, he changed his father's diaper, wiped him down, lifted his limbs to stretch them, and gave him massages and rehabilitation exercises. Care completed once, plus 120 yuan, plus 0 strength, plus 50 experience. Half an hour later, the attending physician came for a checkup. She wore a white coat that highlighted her graceful figure. Her deep-set eyes, elegant demeanor, and professionalism suggested she was around 34 or 35 years old. Typically, she was very serious. Seeing Li Ming, she directly said, "Mr. Li, your father is already 260,000 yuan in debt. The chances of him waking up are extremely slim. Moreover, he's at risk of a relapse and could be in critical condition at any moment."
The best option is to keep him under observation here. Emergency care and daily expenses are significant, and you need to find a way to pay the overdue fees.
You can't keep deferring payments indefinitely.
Li Ming understood the doctor's underlying message. She was advising him to give up. But he replied firmly, Dr.
Yang, don't worry. I'll cover all the overdue payments by the end of May. Dr. Yang was stunned.
Li Ming was only 20 years old, and he should be in college. Even if he's been working odd jobs to pay for medical expenses, it's impossible for him to earn 260,000 yuan in just 1 or 2 years. How could Li Ming possibly come up with 260,000 yuan by the end of this month? She cautioned him seriously, Son, I know you're anxious, but don't resort to illegal activities, you could ruin your life.
Li Ming couldn't help but laugh. He nodded and said, Don't worry, I haven't even enjoyed life yet. Dr. Yang sighed, Enjoy life?
Li Ming comes from a modest background, burdened with debt, and has a critically ill father. Just surviving is a challenge, let alone enjoying life. After some more words of caution, she finally left, fearing that Li Ming might turn to crime due to the high medical costs. Just then, his phone rang, playing a soulful, slightly melancholic melody. He looked at the caller ID, Aunt Zhao calling. Li Ming, Auntie needs to go on a business trip for half a month. I have a golden retriever that's been staying with my best friend, but she has something to do today. Could you help watch the dog for a day? A dog? If she has a dog, she must have money. Li Ming agreed without hesitation, No problem, Auntie.
Where's your office? I'll come over now.
Zhao Huiya was pleased. Li Ming was indeed a trustworthy kid, agreeing so readily. She said, Jixing Technology Building.
I'll send you the address.
Raising an eyebrow, Li Ming looked at the address on his phone.
Jixing Technology Co., Limited?
After some thought, he quickly made his way to the location.
Half an hour later, inside the Starbucks at the building.
Li Ming sat at a table while Zhao Huiya stood bent over her laptop, dressed in a white blouse and black skirt. Her beautiful face looked tired. She was hunched over her computer, her fingers dancing like butterflies across the keyboard.
Chapter 4, 33 Tales of Silver. Zhao Huiya didn't respond and continued sipping her coffee.
The chubby middle-aged man became more anxious and said, President Zhao, I've spent an entire week negotiating with President Ming on this. I managed to squeeze out a 40-minute meeting slot from his fully packed schedule for us.
Zhao Huiya nodded and calmly replied, You go handle it.
But President Zhao, the middle-aged man wanted to say more but stopped when he noticed the cold look in Zhao Huiya's eyes.
Reluctantly, he nodded and said, All right. I'll go explain it to President Ming.
After saying that, he glanced at Li Ming with a frown before leaving. Zhao Huiya remained silent, focused on reviewing the documents on her computer, carefully double-checking each word.
An hour later, Zhao Huiya's expression changed to one of lingering fear.
As she finished her coffee, her tense expression finally relaxed, and she said with relief, I knew something was off with him lately. With a gentle smile, Zhao Huiya turned to Li Ming and said, Li Ming, you've done Auntie a huge favor.
Once I'm done with this, I'll treat you to a big meal.
Li Ming smiled and replied, No need for a big meal, Auntie.
It was just a small favor.
Zhao Huiya looked at Li Ming seriously and said, No, this wasn't a small favor.
This issue concerns the entire Jixing technology.
If it weren't for your timely reminder, I might have recklessly taken on this high-risk project. Not only would I have lost money, but I could have also been involved in leaking trade secrets, which is a criminal offense.
Zhao Huiya's tone was solemn and sincerely. Ming was surprised. Trade secrets?
Zhao Huiya nodded and explained, Yes, even though the technology itself isn't crucial, it has some unique aspects. If I had signed the contract, it would have been considered leaking trade secrets. This was the trap they set for us, offering high returns while playing hard to get with our company.
Humph, that deputy general really thinks I've lost my edge?
Just then, Li Ming noticed a panel notification and was momentarily stunned. Prevented Jixing Technology's trade secret leak, plus 200,000 yuan, plus 0 strength, plus 1,500 experience.
Level, LV2, 1777, 2,000 experience. 200,000 yuan. 1,500 experience points.
Li Ming was dumbfounded. This panel is incredible. He had unintentionally prevented the leak of a relatively unimportant technology and immediately earned 200,000 yuan. If it were an important or core technology, wouldn't the reward be 5 or 10 times higher? Why would he need to ride a bike or deliver food anymore? If he could complete 10 such projects, he'd pretty much achieved financial freedom. After a day of observation, Li Ming also figured out the rules for panel rewards. Completing tasks he had never done before earned him significant experience points. Physical tasks greatly increased his strength points. Normally, working all night would leave him exhausted, but last night while delivering orders, climbing 4 or 6 flights of stairs felt effortless, and his breathing remained steady. With increased strength points, not only had his power grown, but his stamina had also improved. He realized he couldn't just focus on making money. Physical tasks were essential to build a strong body. A healthy body is the foundation for enjoying life and the world's pleasures. New tasks for experience, physical tasks for strength, this was the plan.
A strong body could handle any challenge, no matter how tough.
With a clear plan in mind, Li Ming's smile grew even wider, outshining Zhao Huiya's. He stared at the panel, beginning to plan how to use this money. First, he needed to pay off the 260,000 yuan debt to the hospital. That had to be settled first. Then, the nearly 100,000 yuan borrowed from relatives also needed to be repaid quickly. That added up to 360,000 yuan.
The remaining 40,000 yuan would cover his father's daily care, medication, and periodic special treatments in the hospital.
Even with basic care in a general ward, the minimum daily expense was 500 yuan, barely enough for 2.5 months. After calculating everything, Li Ming pursed his lips, and the smile on his face gradually faded.
The 400,000 yuan hadn't even arrived yet, and it was already gone.
Even with the panel's rewards, he could only barely balance the expenses. Without the panel, he would have no choice but to watch his father die in bed, while he lived a miserable life burdened with debt for the rest of his days. Or, as Dr.
Yang warned, he might be driven to crime out of desperation, meeting a tragic end prematurely. 33 taels of silver, this is the reality for most people. If this balance is disrupted, the majority of people in the world can only lament their fate.
Li Ming shook his head with a bitter smile and took a sip of his now cold coffee. Looking up, he realized that Zhao Huiya was staring blankly at him. She suddenly said, "I'll come pick you up at 9 p.m. tonight."
Chapter 5, Li Yuqi. Li Ming was puzzled. Huh? Where are you picking me up to go? Zhao Huiya smiled warmly. To treat you to a meal, silly boy. Li Ming grinned and said, maybe I should treat you instead, auntie. As Li Ming's cheerful smile lit up his face, Zhao Huiya was momentarily distracted.
The expressions that flashed across his face within just a minute had not escaped her notice. This young man, always smiling, was clearly carrying far heavier burdens than she had imagined.
Li Ming chuckled and asked, Auntie, is there something on my face?
Zhao Huiya softly replied, Xiao Ming, don't worry about your father's medical expenses. Once I get my funds back in rotation next month, everything will be resolved smoothly. Li Ming was stunned, completely taken aback by her words.
Zhao Huiya gently said, Li Ming, don't refuse, this is what you deserve.
Li Ming neither accepted nor declined her offer. Zhao Huiya smiled again and said, Yuqi had someone bring Wonkai over, it's waiting at the door, you can take care of it during the day, and she'll pick it up in the evening.
After saying that, Zhao Huiya gracefully left.
Glancing at the time, Li Ming noticed it was exactly 9 a.m. He finished the last sip of his coffee and walked to the security booth at Jixing Tower.
At the street corner stood a woman and a dog. The woman was about
1.7 meters tall, wearing tight yoga pants that accentuated her perfect curves. Her tan skin and long, toned legs drew plenty of attention from passers-by.
As for the dog? It was a golden retriever, enough said.
As Li Ming got closer, he realized that her muscles were even more defined up close, exuding strength and vitality. She gave off an aura of health, firmness, and fiery energy.
Li Ming, a slightly cold voice called out. Li Ming looked at Li Yuqi.
Her features weren't as delicate and glamorous as Zhao Huiya's, but she had a natural beauty.
She appeared to be in her early 30s. Li Ming smiled and said, You must be Auntie Li? Auntie Zhao asked me to take care of the dog for a day. Li Yuqi raised an eyebrow. How come I've never heard Hui mention you before?
Li Ming was caught off guard by her bluntness.
He answered truthfully, I'm Nan's classmate.
I didn't have much contact with Auntie Zhao before, but now that I'm living in her place, we've gotten to know each other.
Li Yuqi was even more suspicious. Nan's classmate? And you're living in her house? Why? Li Ming's smile faded slightly. Why was she prying so much?
It was their first meeting, and she seemed to want every little detail. Li Ming wasn't fond of people who lacked boundaries. He shifted the conversation and said,
It's a bit complicated, not convenient to explain. Can you just give me the dog, Auntie Li? Li Yuqi didn't budge, only furrowing her brow. How old are you? And what do you do now? Li Ming almost laughed out loud. Was this woman serious? If it weren't for the fact that she was Zhao Hui's close friend, Li Ming would have fired back at her long ago. He calmly replied, "You're asking too many questions. Maybe we can chat another time." Li Yuqi scrutinized Li Ming before saying, "I feel like your intentions with Hui aren't pure." Li Ming was dumbfounded. His time was extremely valuable right now, and he had no interest in arguing with her. He extended his hand. "Give me the dog. If not, I've got other things to do." Li Yuqi asked, "What do you have to do?" Li Ming looked at her like she was an idiot. This woman really was all muscle and no brain. Her well-toned, sexy body was impressive, but apparently, none of that effort had gone to her mind. He turned to leave. He still had to deliver food until noon, then take care of his father's medical needs. After that, he had to work a half-day shift at the logistics center and still meet Zhao Hui for dinner in the evening. He had no time to deal with this clueless woman. Suddenly, he felt a strong grip on his arm. Without warning, Li Ming was pulled toward her, stumbling into her embrace. Li Yuqi held him steady, her face close to his, warm breath brushing against his skin. She sneered, "So weak, huh? Can't even stand up straight." With a smack, she slapped the leash into Li Ming's hand. "Wankai has already eaten this morning. Just grab some hot dogs from the supermarket for lunch. I'll come by to pick him up tonight." After that, she turned and walked away, her tight, toned back attracting more than a few stares from onlookers. "Weak, huh? Just wait until you're on your knees, and you'll realize how wrong you are." Li Ming muttered under his breath. Li Yuqi's prickly personality left him wondering how she and Zhao Hui became close friends. Women like her, with their proud and rebellious nature, usually have a craving for strength mindset. Only someone stronger and tougher than her could make her submissive. One day, he'd put her in her place. Lost in thought, Li Ming looked down to see Wansai's smiling face. He patted the dog's head and called its name, which made the golden retriever happily nuzzle him. Compared to people, dogs were much more obedient. Li Ming hailed a cab, brought Wankai back to his apartment, bought some hot dogs, and played with the dog for a while before heading out again. Scan for rides, accept orders, wait for elevators, climb stairs. By the time he was done, it was already noon. Because the deliveries were far apart, he only completed 5 orders, plus 32 yuan, plus 25 experience points, plus 4 strength. He grabbed a quick meal of braised pork rice on the street near the hospital before rushing to the inpatient department. After checking his father's diaper and finding nothing amiss, he noticed the urine bag was a bit full and changed it. Then, he moved his father's arms and legs to keep his joints flexible, caregiving one time, plus 120 yuan, plus 50 experience points, plus 1 strength. After finishing the care routine, it was already 12:30. Li Ming hurried out, took the subway to Chiwang Station, where the agent was already waiting at the exit. He got into the agent's van, and the group drove to the suburban Chiwang River Logistics Park, to a certain express delivery hub. Standing on the steps, the agent called out, "Today we've got 3 23-meter-long trailers, all carrying large items. Same deal as usual, work for 4 hours and get 200 yuan directly." "Who's in?" Chapter 6, Is This Kid a Freak? Upon hearing the voice, the group turned around. They looked at Li Ming, who was standing at the back, mostly with disdain. Li Ming was about 1.8 meters tall, with a slightly thin build, well-defined facial features, and a youthful look that still had traces of boyishness. When the agent saw Li Ming's appearance, the delight on his face disappeared. Li Ming looked a bit too skinny, clearly not someone with much strength. The agent had previously let some younger temp workers try heavy lifting, but none of them lasted. Those who did manage to continue needed days of rest afterward. The agent chuckled and said, "Li Ming, you'd better stick to sorting, you're quick with your hands." Li Ming frowned. His reason for wanting to do heavy lifting was simple: to build strength and earn money. He replied to the agent, "How about you let me try first and see if I can handle it?" The agent smiled and shook his head, saying, "Li Ming, with your skinny frame, you can't even lift a washing machine, let alone other heavy items. Take my advice and stick to sorting." After the agent finished speaking, the group burst into laughter, teasing Li Ming from all sides. Li Ming was speechless. First, Li Yuqi mocked him as a weakling, and now the agent was calling him a stick. "Do I really look that weak?" he thought. "You all love judging by appearances, huh?" He then proposed to the agent, how about we make a bet? If I can unload an entire truck alone in 4 hours, you give me 1,000 yuan. If I fail, I won't ask for a penny.
The crowd fell silent for a moment, then erupted in laughter again.
Is he serious? It takes 5 people 4 hours to unload one of those trucks, and he thinks he can do it alone?
The agent was surprised. Offering 1,000 yuan to unload a truck wasn't out of budget.
If Li Ming couldn't finish and didn't want any money, it was a win-win for the agent. The agent laughed, saying, Li Ming, make it 1,000 yuan, and I'll even throw in another 1,000 if you can finish it alone. Plus, if you can't finish but work the full 4 hours, I'll still pay you the standard 200 yuan. A scruffy middle-aged man patted Li Ming on the shoulder, smirking as he said, Li Ming, if you can finish this, I'll treat you to a meal of fresh abalone tonight. You might find it fishy at first, but I guarantee you'll get hooked. This comment triggered another round of laughter.
Rolling his eyes, Li Ming agreed. The agent then continued trying to persuade some of the burly older workers to take on the job, but they were seasoned enough to resist. In the end, out of 32 people, only Li Ming went for the heavy lifting. After assigning tasks, Li Ming followed the agent to sign a liability waiver, put on a vest, and entered the warehouse.
By the loading dock, the shift leader looked at the young Li Ming and immediately called the agent, angrily shouting, Are you out of your mind? Sending a kid to unload a 23-meter truck? You're just wasting my time.
On the other end of the call, the agent helplessly replied, No one else wants to do it. If you don't want him, send him to the sorting group. The shift leader, a tall, burly man with thick arms, sighed and hung up. In this position, very few could endure the work, and those who could didn't stick around long.
Chapter 7, 388,000 yuan for a dowry.
Li Ming looked at Wei Jin and the other two with confusion. His gaze then fell on the agent, and he grinned, 2,000 yuan, send it to my WeChat. The agent looked at Li Ming, reluctantly sending the money with a heavy heart. He didn't hesitate because the image of Li Ming effortlessly tossing 2 large wooden pallets with one hand was still fresh in his mind. He didn't want to risk getting punched to death.
Wei Jin smiled, extending his hand to Li Ming. Brother, my name is Wei Jin.
I'm the site supervisor here at the logistics park.
Are you free for dinner tonight?
Li Ming glanced at Wei Jin and politely declined, Sorry, I have other plans tonight.
Wei Jin and his companions were taken aback by the refusal. Still smiling, Wei Jin said, Let's at least add each other on WeChat. Maybe we can catch up sometime.
Li Ming agreed and exchanged WeChat contacts with both Wei Jin and Wei Chang before leaving with a smile. Completed heavy unloading, plus 1,800 yuan, plus 500 strength, plus 200 experience.
Level, LV2, 1977-2000.
Including the 2,000 yuan from the agent, this 3-hour shift earned him a total of 5,600 yuan. As for his strength, it had now accumulated to 800 points on his stats. He wasn't sure how strong he was exactly, but he could lift a double-door refrigerator with ease. Seeing that it was only 5:00 p.m., Li Ming decided to first check on his father at the hospital and settle the outstanding medical bills. Just as he was about to leave, the agent caught up to him, grinning.
Li Ming, there are still 2 more trucks. 1,000 per truck, you can definitely do them before you go. 1,000?
His stats showed each truck was worth 1,800.
The agent was pocketing 800 yuan per truck.
If there were 10 trucks, that would be 8,000 yuan. In this logistics park alone, there were at least 20 trucks a day. Adding the hourly wages for temp workers, the agent's company was easily making around 30,000 yuan daily from this site alone. No wonder these agents all drove luxury cars and lived in mansions. Li Ming rejected the agent's generous offer, saying, I have things to do and need to head back. The agent, realizing that Li Ming was firm in his decision, smiled and offered, All right, I'll drive you to the 7 base station.
The two got into the agent's 7-seater rolling van.
The agent usually waited until the van was full before making trips, as extra fuel costs came out of his pocket and couldn't be reimbursed. However, Li Ming was a special case. A laborer this exceptional could be worth 5 people, so the agent had to keep him happy. At the station, the agent couldn't help but ask, Li Ming, do you have a body full of muscle under those clothes?
You're really strong, way stronger than Wei Chang.
Li Ming was taken aback, realizing he'd never really checked himself out. He laughed, I'm just naturally suited for hard labor. The agent nodded, saying, As long as you have the skills and are willing to work hard, any line of work can make you successful. Li Ming, whenever there's money to be made, I'll call you first. You're reliable and tougher than most.
You're bound to succeed.
Hearing the agent's attempt at motivational talk, Li Ming remained nonchalant. After a few polite responses, he got off the van. What nonsense about enduring hardship to become successful? We do the work, suffer the hardship, and you agents take all the money while trying to brainwash us, Li Ming thought with disdain. Half an hour later, Li Ming arrived at the Second People's Hospital, rode a shared bike to the entrance, and headed to room 06, bed 1 on the 4th floor. The moment he walked in, he was stunned. A hunchbacked, dark-skinned middle-aged man sat beside his father, looking complicated and sighing heavily.
Li Ming smiled and greeted him. Uncle, what brings you here?
Since his mother's passing, Li Ming's contact with his mother's side of the family had been limited. However, through social media, he knew about his uncle's situation during holidays.
Uncle Yang was a typical migrant worker.
In his younger days, he worked on construction sites, but now, older and less in demand, he struggled to find stable work and mainly farmed at home.
His monthly income was minimal, sometimes even non-existent.
Yang Shizhong sighed. I came to check on your daddy, was about to call you.
How's his condition now?
I'm not educated or well off, so there's not much I can do to help. Li Ming shook his head with a smile. After his father's accident, it was Uncle Yang who brought him to the hospital and even co-signed the loan. His uncle was the only person left in the family he truly cared about. Li Ming replied truthfully, the doctor said the chances of him waking up are very slim, but I'm still trying my best.
Uncle Yang sighed, saying, Li Ming, maybe it's time to bring your dad home. You can't keep going on like this, you'll collapse too.
Li Ming shook his head. He hadn't given up before, and he had even less reason to give up now.
He smiled and said, Uncle, there's still hope.
Uncle Yang looked at Li Ming, sighed again, and said, at the end of this month, your cousin's getting married. We came to town today to buy new furniture. On the wedding day, I'll have him send you some candy to bring your dad a bit of joy.
Li Ming was surprised. Cousin's getting married?
That's great news. Where's
the wedding? How much did the dowry cost? Uncle Yang's expression grew bitter. How much?
They want 388,000 yuan, a 3-story house, and a car. I went to borrow money everywhere and still barely scraped together enough. The groom's side is hosting a banquet too, and I'll be paying for that as well. Hearing this, Li Ming felt a twinge of sadness.
Uncle Yang worked tirelessly, with nothing left for retirement, and his savings all went into this wedding.
Uncle Yang continued, Li Ming, you're 23 now, almost time to think about marriage.
Don't worry, Uncle will help you when the time comes.
Chapter 8, The Smell in the Elevator.
Things once unthinkable are now directly considered. This damned instinct, once a possibility arises, becomes arrogantly bold and chest-thumping.
Li Ming and Yang Yu entered the elevator together, and as soon as they got in, a crowd surged and they had no choice but to move back.
Due to the crowd, Yang Yu was facing away from Li Ming.
Upon contact, Li Ming was surprised internally. Soft, elastic. Li Ming detected a faint fragrance. Since his father had been transferred to the level 1 care ward on the 12th floor, it was now 6:30 p.m., the peak time for elevator use. Almost every floor had people going up and down, and the only constant was that the elevator was always extremely crowded. As a result, Li Ming and Yang Yu were squeezed into a corner, with Yang Yu's hands shielding her front.
Unfortunately, people kept coming in and out, and the crowd was dense.
She was repeatedly pressed backward, causing her to instinctively lean forward. The friction between them converted into thermal energy, making physics feel incredibly vivid at this moment.
It took 8 minutes to reach the 12th floor.
With a ding, both of them instantly became alert. Yang Yu's back was damp with sweat, as if she had just undergone a thrilling surgery. Her body felt weak and powerless. Her face remained unchanged, but her body's instinct made her ears slightly redden and her heartbeat quicken. Without looking back, she stepped out, trying to keep up with the crowd. Her legs felt weak, and if it weren't for a strong pair of hands supporting her, she might have collapsed onto the floor. After being helped up, Yang Yu didn't turn around. She quickly left, her white coat tightly clinging to her body. Li Ming sighed, adjusted his collar, and with a slight stoop, slowly followed.
On the 12th floor of the inpatient department.
In just half an hour, Li Ming's father had been moved to the level 1 care ward.
The nurses here had gentle dispositions, their voices flowing like a stream, very patient and professional.
Li Ming couldn't tell if it was his imagination, but after spending 300,000 yuan, he felt that whenever nurses and doctors passed by him, they always had a smile on their faces. Whatever he needed, whether available or not within 5 minutes, there would definitely be a response. The quality and efficiency of service had improved by more than one level. At 8 p.m. sharp, Li Ming had taken care of everything at the hospital. Yan Yu reappeared after disappearing for over 40 minutes, giving Li Ming some related instructions. When she spoke, she was serious and focused, conveying her instructions in a professional manner that Li Ming could understand. Her face showed no signs of anything unusual. It was as if nothing had happened.
Li Ming left the hospital and checked his account balance. Balance, yuan.
Having had 400,000 yuan before, Li Ming suddenly felt that 10,000 yuan seemed really insignificant and wouldn't last long. There was still an hour until 9 p.m., and Li Ming glanced at the panel *** chapter 9, just one smile from you ***.
Weiji Pavilion is a famous high-end restaurant in Jiangcheng.
As soon as the Porsche arrived at the entrance, a security guard in white gloves approached. Zhao Huiya stopped the car, tossed the keys to the guard to park, and led Li Ming and Li Yuqi straight into the restaurant.
A man and two women.
Due to Zhao Huiya and Li Yuqi's striking figures, the three immediately became a subtle focal point upon entering. The men's gazes lingered more on the two women, while the women's eyes scrutinized Li Ming. Young, slightly naive, not very outstanding in appearance, but able to dine with two beautiful women. This young man is either wealthy or has his own strengths, the female customers thought, their gazes inevitably drifting down to Li Ming. They seemed to want to discern something special about Li Ming with their sharp eyes. The restaurant's decor was elegant and understated, yet tasteful, with warm, soft lighting. Li Ming glanced around. The watches the men wore and the car keys on the table were all valuable, and the women's earrings and pendants sparkled with precious gems. Under the guidance of the waiter, the three took their seats, and Zhao Huiya began ordering from the menu. She smiled and said, "Xiao Ming, you should try their signature dishes, abalone stewed with chicken, crispy skin chicken, and pineapple char siu buns." Li Ming nodded, smiling, "Looks like I'm in for a treat today." Li Yuqi interjected, "Li Ming, there are two aunts accompanying you today, so you should treat us." Upon hearing this, Li Ming smiled slightly. He knew that Li Yuqi would stir up trouble today.
Weiji Pavilion's minimum per capita cost is around 1,000 yuan. For 3 people, it would definitely be at least 3,000.
Li Yuqi probably knew his situation but still deliberately said this, making her intentions of causing trouble obvious. Zhao Huiya rolled her eyes and quickly interrupted, "Yuqi, stop messing around. Xiao Ming has helped me a lot, so I'm treating him today." Li Yuqi feigned realization. "Oh, helped you with household chores, changed a light bulb, fixed the fridge. You've certainly benefited a lot, but I remember you didn't charge him rent.
Haven't you two evened things out?
I'm very clear about these matters and don't like seeing friends being taken advantage of.
How about we split the bill for this meal? What do you think, Li Ming?" Li Yuqi smiled at Li Ming.
She was certainly aware of Li Ming's situation and deliberately made things difficult for him.
Her goal was simple, to make Li Ming keep his distance from Zhao Huiya and retreat.
Zhao Zinan had told her the day before that Li Ming was very good at flirting with girls and had been getting close to Zhao Huiya recently, so she needed to be cautious. She had checked the surveillance and found that Li Ming, during the day at Zhao Huiya's home, wasn't wearing pants. What's more, on the night Zhao Zinan had warned her, Li Ming had again shown up at Zhao Huiya's house wearing only boxers and a tank top. In the dead of night, he had cooked barbecue for Zhao Huiya, actively courted her, did housework, and even made perverted requests like washing Zhao Huiya's intimate pajamas. Li Ming was clearly ambitious and wanted to hook up with the rich Zhao Huiya.
Hearing Li Yuqi's sarcastic remarks, Li Ming instantly understood.
It turned out they, like Zhao Zinan, thought he had ulterior motives towards Zhao Huiya. Li Ming smiled wryly. He admitted to having a slight interest in Zhao Huiya, but nothing as outrageous as the two women thought.
Treating them to a meal?
In the past, he would have thought twice about treating two women to a simple pig's trotter meal. Now, he only cared about enjoying himself. Li Ming said frankly, "Aunt Zhao has helped me a lot recently.
I'm just looking for an opportunity to thank her."
"Don't mention just one meal, as long as Aunt Zhao doesn't mind, I can treat her to meals every day."
Li Yuqi looked at Li Ming, astonished that he even wanted to treat Zhao Huiya to meals every day. This little brat really had no shame. Did he really think she didn't know his background? A dropout student actually wanted to play the wealthy man? Humph.
As Li Yuqi finished speaking, Zhao Huiya laughed so hard she almost trembled. "Xiao Ming, stop joking.
Aunt Li is just kidding with you." Li Yuqi smiled slightly and said, "Li Ming, since you're so generous, I won't stand on ceremony. Waiter, give me the menu."
The waiter, who had been listening to their conversation, expressionless, immediately handed the menu to Li Yuqi. Li Yuqi took it, pointed at 3 dishes, and said, "Remove these 3, the rest, bring them all."
The waiter was taken aback. Such a huge order? He looked uncertainly at Li Ming.
Zhao Huiya rolled her eyes and said, "There are only 3 of us.
We can't finish so many dishes."
Li Yuqi smiled lightly. "Huiya, I'm not asking you to pay, so don't worry. Besides, I work out and eat a lot."
Before Li Ming could say anything, Li Yuqi said directly, "Hurry up and serve the dishes. I'm hungry."
Zhao Huiya was about to call the waiter back but reconsidered. It was just a meal, as long as Li Ming and Li Yuqi were happy, the quantity didn't matter. Moments later, the waiter began bringing out the dishes.
There were 32 dishes and a large bottle of red wine.
Pan-fried osmanthus duck, cordyceps flour chicken soup, black truffle baked chicken, abalone stewed chicken, steamed king crab. The most expensive dish was the king crab at 998 yuan, and the rest started at 388 yuan. Li Yuqi occasionally glanced at Li Ming, trying to gauge his reaction. However, Li Ming remained calm, chatting and laughing with Zhao Huiya, completely ignoring her.
Li Yuqi sneered inwardly and began devouring the meat. Li Ming wasn't shy either.
After unloading a truckload, he was incredibly hungry.
He devoured abalone and stuffed himself with steaming white rice. Seeing this, Zhao Huiya couldn't help but smile.
Li Yuqi, who also had a hearty appetite, tackled the steak, roasted duck, and stewed chicken legs one after another. The 2 of them ate without any regard for dining etiquette, turning into a spectacle in the restaurant. Watching them eat like this, Zhao Huiya also felt quite hungry.
The 3 of them focused on their meal. An hour later,
the 32 dishes had been finished without any waste. Most of the food was eaten by Li Ming and Li Yuqi.
The entire bottle of red wine was consumed as if it were mineral water, gulped down rapidly.
This appetite astonished the waiter and the neighboring tables. Li Yuqi's well-toned figure, clearly showing her abdominal muscles, suggested she was used to eating a lot due to regular workouts. This was not surprising. What was surprising was that Li Ming, a thin guy, ate even more than Li Yuqi.
This drew curious looks from everyone.
Li Yuqi was also puzzled. She hadn't expected Li Ming to eat so much. She smirked, thinking, "Let's see if you can pay." "Check, please." Li Yuqi raised her hand to call the waiter over and pointed at Li Ming, saying, "This young man will pay."
"Collect the payment from him."
The waiter brought the bill and smiled at Li Ming. "Sir, the total is 29,348 yuan.
Will you be paying by card or WeChat?" 29,000 yuan?
Li Ming frowned and took a look at the bill. The bottle of red wine was priced at yuan. Li Yuqi was truly ruthless, ordering a 20,000 yuan wine to drink like water. Seeing Li Ming frown at the bill, Li Yuqi revealed a smile.
Li Ming really didn't have money.
She said casually, "Are you short of cash?"
"Stop hesitating. If you agree to one condition, I'll cover the meal." "What do you think?"
Li Ming looked up in confusion. "What condition?" Li Yuqi said through gritted teeth, "From now on, you're not allowed to go to Aunt Zhao's house."
"Not even once?" Li Ming was taken aback.
He only went to help out when necessary, not to sleep with Zhao Huiya.
Was Li Yuqi really that sensitive?
Zhao Huiya glared at Li Yuqi. "Yuqi, stop joking about Li Ming.
He doesn't have that much money right now. He can treat us once he graduates and starts working.
Besides, he's been helping me at home, don't say such nonsense." Li Yuqi chuckled. "Ha, he hasn't even finished his first year of college.
Waiting for him to graduate and treat us is a real joke."
The nearby waiter looked awkwardly at Li Ming, and people at the neighboring table had their ears perked up, their eyes on Li Ming. Li Ming was only a freshman? No wonder he looked so naive. A student daring to bring 2 mature women to such an upscale restaurant? It was like an ignorant person trying to show off, deserving to be embarrassed. To ease the awkwardness, the waiter explained, "Sir, please take your time.
I'm not in a hurry."
Seeing this scene, Zhao Huiya's expression grew cold.
She was truly angry now.
She looked at Li Yuqi seriously. "You've gone too far today." Li Yuqi pouted and ignored Zhao Huiya. Instead, she said to Li Ming, "From now on, forget about your little schemes." She then told the waiter, "This little brother doesn't have money, I'll pay the bill."
"Wait."
Li Ming reached out to stop the waiter and coldly said to Li Yuqi, "Who said I don't have money?
Who said I can't pay?"
At these words, Li Yuqi remained silent with a smile.
Zhao Huiya sighed. "Li Ming, Don't be like this amount is too much. Li Yuqi interrupted, Huya, let him pay. He's been using your place for living and meals. I want to see where he's getting the money from. Poof. In an instant, all eyes in the restaurant were on Li Ming, filled with mockery and contempt. Suddenly, Li Ming stood up, surprising everyone. Was there going to be a dramatic turn of events? Li Yuqi straightened up, frowning at him. Amid the crowd's curious and expectant gazes, Li Ming strode out of the restaurant. Quiet, followed by a burst of laughter, especially from the two couples at the neighboring table, who were laughing so hard their faces turned red. Li Yuqi wore a victorious smile. What a coward. Just ran away like this. He still thinks he can pursue my Huya? It's just a pipe dream. Zhao Huya's face turned grim, and she quickly stood up to chase after Li Ming. But halfway there, she saw Li Ming come back in with a red rose and a smile on his face. Zhao Huya stopped, and under everyone's astonished gaze, Li Ming handed her the flower and said, Aunt Zhao, I'm selling you this flower, would you like to buy it? At these words, everyone was puzzled. Li Yuqi stood up and scolded, Li Ming, if you're out of money, just admit it. Don't try to make a show. Are you trying to use such a pathetic trick to make Huya pay the bill? It's childish. The people in the restaurant were also speechless. Li Ming's sudden stunt left Zhao Huya both amused and exasperated. But she still accepted the flower with a smile. I'll buy it. How much is it? As soon as she finished speaking, Li Ming saw the display change. Sold 1 flower, plus 9 yuan, plus 10 experience. Level, 2005 4000. Pending settlement, 0. 8 plus 9. 9. Li Ming settled the payment with his card and checked the account balance, 0. 7 yuan. He said to Zhao Huya, the flower doesn't cost anything. Just one smile from you is enough. After speaking, Li Ming, under the puzzled eyes of everyone, handed his card to the waiter. The waiter, doubtful, swiped the card. With a beep, the payment was successful. Zhao Huya was stunned and looked down at the vibrant rose in her hand. Then she looked up and beamed brightly, her eyes fixed on Li Ming. Impressive, brother, someone at the neighboring table suddenly shouted. Everyone reacted, and soon, someone started clapping. Within seconds, the entire restaurant was filled with enthusiastic applause. Li Yuqi stood up, incredulously watching Li Ming and the beaming Zhao Huya. No way. Such a cliched gesture actually won Zhao Huya over? Chapter 10, just like this. At this moment, Li Ming emerged from the bathroom. Zhao Huya picked up her Chanel classic flap and smiled at Li Ming. Xiao Ming, it's still early. Why don't you come with me to the mall? Li Ming nodded with a smile, sure, let's go. With that, Zhao Huya stood up and, shoulder to shoulder with Li Ming, headed towards the exit. Seeing this, Li Yuqi immediately stood up and grabbed Zhao Huya's hand, seemingly worried that Li Ming might get too close. As she pulled, Zhao Huya, wearing high heels, almost stumbled and nearly fell. Because of her larger build, Li Yuqi was also pulled, and both women wobbled dangerously towards a neighboring table. The table was set with a hot pot, and if it tipped over, they would definitely get burned. Hey! Hey! In their panic, 2 strong arms reached out from behind and stabilized them, preventing them from falling. Phew, that scared me. Zhao Huya patted her chest in relief, while Li Yuqi also breathed a sigh of relief. Turning around, they saw it was Li Ming. Zhao Huya smiled brightly, while Li Yuqi furrowed her brows. Li Ming gently pulled the 2 women back and asked with concern, Auntie, are you all right? Looking at the boiling hot pot, Zhao Huya said with lingering fear, we're fine, thanks to you, Xiao Ming. Li Yuqi, realizing her mistake, felt uncomfortable. She had been making things difficult for Li Ming but was now saved by him. She awkwardly said, thank you. Li Ming smiled warmly, no need to be polite, it was just a small thing. He sighed inwardly, reflecting that the impact of the fall was significant, and if his strength hadn't improved, he might not have been able to pull them back. Noticing Li Yuqi's downcast mood, Zhao Huya took the initiative and pulled Li Yuqi's hand, smiling, Yuqi, Xiao Ming is quite strong. He managed to hold us both. How does he compare to those fitness trainers you know? Li Yuqi forced a smile and replied, far from it. Zhao Huya continued with a smile, oh? But it's still pretty good. He's still young, he'll get stronger as he grows up. Always talking about Li Ming? Li Yuqi rolled her eyes and had no desire to converse with Zhao Huya. She said, let's go shopping. With that, the 2 women walked hand in hand in front of Li Ming. He looked at their impressive figures and thought to himself. Life isn't always as serene as it seems, they're just carrying their burdens forward. At the entrance, the security guard had already moved the car aside to wait. The attendant personally escorted the three to the car and smiled, "Have a good time, and we look forward to your next visit." Li Ming relaxed in the back seat while Zhao Huiya drove. As the Porsche's engine roared to life, the car slowly disappeared. The attendant sighed in relief, looking at Li Ming's back with envy. Young and pampered by aunties. Dining out and making two strong-willed aunties compete for his attention in a playful manner. It's hard to imagine what Li Ming's private life and nightlife are like. This damn poverty limits my imagination. I can't even fathom what this guy's nightlife is like. After a sigh, the attendant returned to his standard fake smile, like an NPC, and went back inside to serve customers Jiangqing, Tai Hui Gu. The mall was bustling with activity at 10 o'clock in the evening. After parking, Li Ming followed the two women into the Tai Hui Gu Mall, which housed many international luxury brands. Chapter 11, The Beautiful Fitness Coach. Li Ming quietly followed the two women. It could be said that people's desires are influenced by their basic needs. He noticed that people visiting the mall seemed to have only two interests, eating and more eating. Li Ming admired the various dazzling displays in the mall while pondering ways to earn money. "Hey, Hui, look! There's a fitness blogger with 1 million followers doing a live stream. Let's go check it out." Li Yuqi suddenly stopped and pointed at the center of the plaza, showing her first smile of the day. Zhao Huiya turned around and asked Li Ming, "Xiao Ming, shall we go and see?" Li Ming nodded and followed the two women. As they got closer, they saw a crowd of over 100 people gathered, with onlookers around the edges. In the center, several men and women were surrounded by a street strength testing machine and a table. On the table was a sign for the street's single-handed gold challenge, with a trapezoidal piece of gold, smaller at the top and larger at the bottom. Li Ming smiled. He had seen this challenge on a short video platform before. Lifting gold with one hand, from a physics standpoint, requires overcoming the weight and friction of the gold. Given that gold is heavy and has a smooth surface, it requires substantial strength to lift. Moreover, it's necessary to maintain balance and lift the gold vertically with one hand within a specified time while keeping it in place. If these requirements aren't met, even if the gold is lifted, the challenge is not considered successful. Such a challenge is only achievable by a few. For ordinary people, it's just a gimmick to attract attention. The blogger, Hua Gu, held up the sign and addressed the crowd. "Who else wants to take the challenge? My record on the strength testing machine is 180 kilograms with one punch. Men who break the record get a one-time reward of 3,000 yuan, and an additional 1,000 yuan for exceeding the record by 20 kilograms. Women's record is 100 kilograms, with a one-time reward of 1,000 yuan for exceeding the record by 10 kilograms. Hua Gu continued with a smile, everyone can participate. It doesn't matter if you break the record or not, the main thing is to have fun and get fit. Li Yuqi, standing by, was eager to try. "I'll do it." At this moment, a tall and burly young man raised his hand. The photographer focused the camera on the young man. Hua Gu asked, "Wow, brother, how tall are you? What do you do? Briefly introduce yourself." The burly youth looked at the camera and said, "I'm a student of physical education, 22 years old, 192 centimeters tall. I want to challenge Hua Ji's strength testing machine." Hua Gu said, "You're a sports student, so strong. Do you think you can succeed in the challenge?" The burly youth shook his head. "I'll have to try to know, can't say for sure." Hua Gu laughed heartily and addressed the crowd. "This is a 1.9-meter sports student. Do you think he can break my record?" "Yes. He's a head taller than you, his strength must be considerable. I think he can do it too. Sports students usually have strong muscles." The crowd offered their opinions. Zhao Huiya looked at Li Yuqi with curiosity and asked, "You're a professional fitness coach, what do you think?" Li Yuqi thought for a moment and said, "Generally, an untrained ordinary person's full force punch is around 15 to 50 kilograms. Of course, this varies by individual, including gender, age, and physical condition. But most ordinary people fall within the 50 kilogram range. Sports students and professionally trained athletes are around 80 to 200 kilograms. Above 200 kilograms is achieved only by internationally renowned professional boxers. Hua Ji's record is 180 kilograms, which is top-notch in the industry. This college student looks strong, but he can at most hit around 100 kilograms, not exceeding 110.
As she spoke, the sports student, guided by Hua Gu, took his best stance and punched. The crowd gasped as the red numbers flashed, finally showing 106 kilograms. Li Ming looked at Li Yuqi in surprise, her guess was spot on.
Truly a professional. Zhao Huiya praised, Yuqi, you're amazing.
You guessed it correctly.
Li Yuqi lifted her chin proudly and said, of course, this is my expertise.
At this point, Hua Gu expressed a bit of regret, a very good score, surpassing 95% of people, but unfortunately, didn't break the record. The burly youth shook his head and smiled wryly, finding it harder than it looked. The surrounding crowd had their perceptions updated, realizing the difficulty of breaking the record.
It's practically impossible.
Zhao Huiya smiled and said, if they dare set up a challenge, they must be confident.
Hua Gu continued, is there anyone else who wants to try? Everyone, participate for fun.
If you're not interested in the strength testing machine, come and try lifting the gold with one hand. Unfortunately, the previous burly youth had made everyone aware of the challenge's difficulty. Despite Hua Ji's repeated calls, no one stepped up to challenge, and the crowd began to disperse. Seeing the atmosphere cooling down and people leaving, Hua Gu quickly said, it looks like the difficulty is too high.
Let's do this. I'll lower the male record to 150 kilograms and the female record to 90 kilograms. As long as you break the record, I'll give you the same reward.
Hua Gu is willing to take the risk of a loss today. Any heroes willing to challenge?
Yes or no?
Livestream friends, give Hua Gu some support.
Hit that like button and follow us. Hua Gu shouted in an unusual tone.
Hearing this, the livestream viewership increased, and the on-site audience paused to watch.
I'll do it.
At this moment, Li Yuqi's voice rang out.
Everyone's eyes fell on Li Yuqi, unable to look away.
The photographer's eyes lit up, focusing on Li Yuqi, who was wearing yoga pants and had a stunning figure. In an instant, the livestream viewership began to rise. Hua Gu excitedly said, great! A sexy beauty is taking on the challenge.
Wow, look at her figure, it's impressive.
What's your profession?
Li Yuqi smiled and replied, I'm a fitness coach.
As soon as this was said, Hua Gu excitedly shouted into the camera, livestream viewers, here's a treat.
The sexy female coach is challenging the strength testing machine. Do you think she can succeed? She's already in position.
Those who believe she can, hit a 1, okay, the top supporter wants her to try a few more times, right?
Arrange it.
Hua Gu continued shouting and asking questions for nearly 5 minutes, but he still didn't start the challenge. Chapter 12, your posture is incorrect. Under the gaze of the crowd, the stunningly beautiful Li Yuqi walked confidently to the strength testing machine. She lightly stretched her body, her curvaceous figure subtly highlighted by her yoga pants.
Miss, your posture is incorrect.
Let me help you adjust it. Hua Gu, the blogger, immediately approached. He reached out with one hand towards Li Yuqi's waist and the other towards her legs, as if to help her adjust her stance. Seeing this, Li Yuqi took a step back.
No need, she said with a frown. I'm a professional fitness coach. I can handle it myself. Hua Gu maintained his smile and said, Miss, I'm a professional boxer.
Trust me, if you don't adjust your posture, you might not only fail to exert your maximum strength but also risk injury. As he spoke, he moved closer, intending to pull Li Yuqi in front of him.
The camera zoomed in on them.
I'll pass on the challenge, Li Yuqi said with a hint of disgust, turning to leave.
Hua Ji's smile abruptly vanished. Oh, come on, don't go.
It's up to you, but don't blame me if you get hurt, he said, making a gesture of invitation. Seeing the hundreds of people watching, Li Yuqi frowned again and returned to the strength testing machine, adjusting her posture. Hua Gu and the photographer rushed up to her, grinning and making exaggerated faces. Friends in the livestream, our hot fitness coach just had a little tantrum.
But no worries, let's see her performance, larger? Haha, it's definitely going to be large. Everyone, give Hua Gu some love.
Zhao Huiya, observing this, said with disgust, to gain views, they're resorting to such low tactics. Xiao Ming, stay away from this kind of livestream in the future.
Li Ming nodded.
He had just checked Hua Ji's works and profile on his phone. They were all videos of prey picked from the streets, intentionally creating provocative content with ambiguous language to tease women. Even if the women had boyfriends or husbands nearby, Hua Gu would still cross the line. Such videos often sparked controversy but brought him massive views. When the people involved got angry or upset, Huagu would use his million-follower status and a camera to pressure them, offering apologies while subtly threatening them not to push further.
The underlying message was, "I've already apologized, what more do you want?"
Li Ming quickly browsed Hua Ji's controversial events and found this pattern consistent. He looked up and saw Li Yuqi had assumed her stance and was ready.
Ha! Li Yuqi exclaimed as she threw a punch.
The punch hit the testing ball with a loud thud. Everyone's attention was on the screen, where the red numbers were fluctuating 23, 45, 56, 85, 89, 91 kilograms. Seeing this number, Li Ming's jaw dropped in surprise. Huagu was momentarily stunned but then suddenly leaped up in excitement, addressing the camera, record-breaking.
"Brothers, this beauty has set a new record.
We've witnessed a miracle, a woman hitting 91 kilograms of force." The crowd around them erupted in applause and cheers. Li Yuqi looked at Zhao Huiya and Li Ming, lifting her chin with a proud smile. Huagu immediately rushed to Li Yuqi's side, with the camera focused on both of them.
Huagu, with an exaggerated expression, said, "Miss, you're amazing. You're the best female I've ever seen."
He then made faces at the camera, smiling broadly. "Brothers, hit that follow button and give Huagu some likes."
Li Yuqi raised an eyebrow and said directly, "The record is broken, so where's the money?" Huagu laughed, "Miss, you're so outstanding. Why don't you stay and help me with some show effects?"
As a blogger with millions of followers, Huagu was very sensitive to traffic, and this was a great opportunity to gain more views. Li Yuqi had already sensed Hua Ji's intentions.
She coldly replied, "I'm not interested. My friends are still waiting for me." Huagu laughed, so aloof. Livestream friends, do you think Huagu should keep this aloof beauty here? Everyone hit one.
He turned to Li Yuqi with a lecherous grin. "Miss, the livestream friends are so enthusiastic.
How about we broadcast together for half an hour? Do me a favor, okay?" Li Yuqi frowned and decisively refused. "No way. Are you going to give me the money or not? A million-follower blogger who can't even keep his word?"
"Yuqi, let's go," Zhao Huiya said as she and Li Ming approached. Li Ming observed quietly, smirking inwardly.
Huagu not only played tricks but also lacked credibility.
After Li Yuqi broke the record, he kept trying to retain her but didn't mention anything about the prize. Seeing Zhao Huiya, Hua Ji's attention was instantly captured.
Zhao Huiya's captivating beauty and exceptional figure set her apart from other women. Huagu, with his photographer in tow, approached Zhao Huiya, puffing out his exaggerated chest. He smiled and said, "Are you two friends? Great. How about both of you collaborate on a video?" Zhao Huiya gave Huagu a cold look and said, "Not interested."
She extended her hand to hold Li Yuqi's and said, "It's just a few thousand yuan.
We don't need it. Let's not waste time here and ruin our mood. Let's go."
Li Yuqi was displeased but, seeing the crowd and the camera recording, didn't want to argue further.
She pouted and said, "How annoying. Let's go." The three of them turned to leave. However, Huagu suddenly shouted angrily, "Who are you calling annoying? In a civilized society, can't we communicate properly?"
Hua Ji's dozen or so companions surrounded them, their faces showing anger. "If you didn't want to, you should have refused directly.
We didn't force you to stay." Exactly. In a civilized society, we should communicate respectfully. Don't just start insulting people.
Our team has seen all kinds of people, don't treat us like fools or the deaf.
You think you can just leave without giving an explanation? Apologize to Huagu.
Apologize to our 160,000 livestream followers."
A group of muscle-bound men and women, their mouths all speaking at once, blocked the way of the three, shouting with righteous indignation. Li Yuqi was instantly enraged. She shouted, "Apologize? It's you who should apologize. Don't think that just because you have numbers and influence, you can twist the truth. I broke the record, and you didn't pay.
I was about to leave, and you're still harassing me. Now you're surrounding my two friends.
What do you want to do? Do you want to fight?" At these words, Hua Ji's team became even more furious. Some of the women even pointed at Li Ming and the others, trying to reason with them.
Li Yuqi and Zhao Huiya trembled with anger, unable to argue effectively. They had never encountered such a gang of bullies and were helpless despite their rage.
"Get your dirty hands off and get out of the way."
Suddenly, a deep, angry roar rang out, exploding in everyone's ears. Chapter 13, Auntie, this is my first time wearing
This kind of humiliation is unbearable. Li Ming said. Dare to accept my challenge? If you lose, you will apologize publicly across the internet and give us the record-breaking money.
Upon hearing this, Huagu was stunned, and those around him fell silent. Then, there was a burst of laughter, filled with disdain and mockery.
Huagu stared at Li Ming in disbelief. You want to challenge me? Li Ming nodded, yes. Li Yuqi and Zhao Huiya both looked at Li Ming, thinking they must have heard wrong.
Seeing Li Ming's serious expression, Zhao Huiya quickly grabbed Li Ming's arm and advised, Li Ming, don't get into conflict with them.
Let's leave. Li Yuqi was dumbfounded.
She hadn't expected this young, hot-headed kid to stand up for them. And to have the courage to challenge Huagu, a seasoned fitness professional, in front of so many people. She also said to Li Ming, there's no need.
Sometimes stepping back can be a good thing. Listen to Aunt Zhao and let's go. Li Ming shook his head, not responding to the two women. He just looked at Huagu and said again, are you afraid? Are you not a man? Hua Ji's smile stiffened. How dare Li Ming provoke him in front of so many people? Was he trying to blackmail him? He sneered, I don't know what you're up to, but I, Huagu, have a certain reputation on the internet. Not everyone can challenge me. Who do you think you are? Trying to extort us? Li Ming replied. Aren't you always recording with cameras?
Your team members are all filming.
And with so many viewers watching, how could I extort you? With your reputation, is this all the courage you have? Huagu slowly walked over, his muscular physique towering over Li Ming. He frowned and said, are you sure? I'll give you a chance. Apologize publicly, and I won't hold it against you. Li Ming, do you dare? Huagu stared at Li Ming for a long time, showing a hint of ferocity. He then said with a grin, so serious? Fine, let's not compare other things. Let's have a 3-minute boxing match. Whoever falls loses. No matter who gets injured, neither side will bear any legal responsibility or medical costs. We'll show our IDs and promise to all present and in the live broadcast. How about it? Li Ming nodded, okay, no problem.
Upon hearing this, Huagu and his team looked at Li Ming as if he were a fool.
Huagu laughed, ha, you have some guts.
Then, he addressed the onlookers and the camera, ha, dear viewers, this little guy wants to spar with me in a 3-minute friendly match. Huagu then took out his ID and loudly declared, I, Yanghu, promise to the entire internet and the hundreds of viewers present that in this friendly match, friendship comes first and competition second. No matter what injuries or accidents I, Yanghu, may suffer, I will bear all legal consequences myself. If what I said is false, I am willing to bear all legal responsibilities. This declaration caused an uproar among the crowd. They could sense Yanghu's anger and realized he was serious. Everyone's attention turned to Li Ming, first shocked, then puzzled. Li Ming was slightly taller than Yanghu but lacked his muscular build. The two were not in the same weight class. Even if it were a friendly match, Li Ming would definitely get hurt facing Yanghu's fury. It was like hitting a stone with an egg. Zhao Huiya and Li Yuqi's expressions changed upon hearing this. Zhao Huiya hurried forward, grabbing Li Ming and sternly said, you silly kid. Don't be impulsive. Li Yuqi urged, don't fall for his trick. He's just trying to use you to create traffic. There's no need to engage with them. It's not worth it. Besides the two women, the onlookers were also unable to tolerate it. An old man said loudly, young man, I understand youthful enthusiasm, but this isn't a big deal. Just endure it and move on. Li Ming looked at the two women and said seriously, this isn't about enduring. Zhao Huiya, you. She didn't expect Li Ming to be so stubborn and was at a loss for words. Li Ming ignored the two women and turned to the camera. He didn't have his ID, but he had a photo on his phone. Mimicking Huagu, he addressed the camera, I, Li Ming, real name. After Li Ming spoke, Huagu had the cameraman focus on Li Ming and asked, this young man, we are doing this voluntarily and taking legal responsibility for our actions, right? Li Ming replied to the camera, that's right. Huagu sneered and said, alright, the video has been recorded. Do you have any more questions? Li Ming shook his head. Huagu then picked up the boxing gloves from the ground and threw them to Li Ming. His eyes concealed a hint of mockery as he said, let's get started. Zhao Huiya looked at Li Ming with concern. Her expression was both helpless and worried as she said, if you can't handle it, just admit defeat. Apologizing to him is not a big deal.
Li Ming smiled and said, "Don't worry." He then awkwardly asked Li Yuqi, "Auntie Li, how do I put these on?" Li Yuqi rolled her eyes, thinking how could someone challenge a retired boxer without even knowing how to wear boxing gloves. It was like courting death. Though she suspected Li Ming had ulterior motives with Zhao Huiya, she didn't want to see him get hurt on her account. Reluctantly, she advised, "Really, don't be stubborn. You won't even be able to take one punch from him." Li Ming smiled, "It's just a sparring session. Nothing serious. Help me put them on."
The two women exchanged glances and sighed in resignation.
Zhao Huiya, unable to dissuade Li Ming, said, "I'm ready to call the police and an ambulance at any moment. If you can't handle it, come straight to me.
With Auntie here, a web celebrity can't cause much trouble."
Li Ming smiled and said, "Okay, call 120. Zhao Huiya and the others were left speechless.
Huago frowned and shouted loudly, "Stop mumbling.
The 250,000 viewers in the live stream are waiting for you."
As for the nature of this challenge, the spectators and viewers in the live stream knew very well. It wasn't a challenge at all but a way for two groups to resolve their conflict through an illegal but non-violent method. The number of viewers in the live stream was soaring, and Huago didn't even glance at Li Ming. Instead, he excitedly addressed the live stream, "Brothers, hit that follow button. An exciting friendly match is about to start."
A friendly match?
This was a setup for a fight. If openly stated, the live stream would be banned, and the hat uncle would come knocking. Yang, whose goal was to generate traffic and create a spectacle. He was well aware of what was against the rules and what wasn't. As for what would happen after the fight, Yang who already had a plan in mind.
He would deliberately injure Li Ming, forcing Li Ming to apologize across the internet.
Later, his team would show their generosity by forgiving Li Ming, visiting him in the hospital with a fruit basket, expressing concern, and covering his medical expenses. Finally, they would give Li Yuqi the record-breaking money and interact with her.
With the right moves, his fanbase would surely skyrocket. A single friendly match would make him a huge winner.
At this moment, Li Ming donned the boxing gloves and walked towards Huagu. Huagu leaned in close to Li Ming and whispered, "Hana, I should thank you for your cooperation.
You've created another wave of hype for me. As for you, I've already called an ambulance. It'll hurt, but you won't die."
Li Ming said nothing and looked at Hua Ji's team. One member shouted loudly, "Start." Suddenly, Hua Ji's powerful body surged forward, and a hook was thrown at Li Ming. Li Ming staggered backward, almost falling, causing the crowd to gasp.
Huago and his team sneered. A skinny student daring to challenge a retired boxer? It was a death wish.
Li Ming adjusted to the rhythm and, seeing Huagu advancing, remained very cautious. After all, he was truly an amateur. His challenge was based on his guess about his own strength points.
Now was the perfect time to test it.
Huagu seemed to be toying with him, deliberately advancing to intimidate Li Ming, then retreating and mocking, "Kid, stop dodging.
You were so arrogant earlier. Come and fight me."
Li Ming stepped forward, and Huagu, taken aback, threw a punch.
Li Ming also punched straight at Hua Ji's fist. Seeing Li Ming's amateur technique, Huagu laughed directly. A skinny frame daring to trade blows with him? Ridiculous.
The spectators frowned, puzzled by this odd fighting style.
"Kid, come on." Huagu roared. Li Ming's face turned grim.
His fist suddenly shot out like a cannonball, and with a thunderous bang, his fist collided heavily
with Hua Ji's.
The moment Huagu felt this force, his smile vanished instantly. His face turned to one of disbelief and terror. His eyes widened as if they might pop out, and his mouth opened in a brief, involuntary scream. In an instant, Huagu felt an overwhelming, excruciating pain radiating from his arm, with a sickening crunch of bone breaking. Then, with a bang, Hua Ji's face changed dramatically, twisting in agony, his features almost merging together. His arm bent in an extremely unnatural and horrifying way, with broken bone fragments piercing through the skin and blood gushing out, staining a large portion of the ground. The muscles and tendons at the break dangled like torn ropes, mixed with blood and shattered bone, a ghastly sight. Hua Ji's eyes were filled with shock and fear. He opened his mouth but could only make painful sounds, his body twitching uncontrollably. The fractured arm flailed weakly, each movement spilling more blood, creating a gruesome, blood-splattered scene that was unbearable to watch.
Moments later, the female spectators screamed in fright, terrified by the gory scene.
Hua Ji's team rushed up in panic, frightened and urgent, while the women cried in fear, unable to look at the injured Huagu. The live stream was instantly shut down, and the crowd at the scene was in chaos as someone called 120, turning the scene into complete disorder. Hua Gu was in so much pain he nearly lost consciousness, staring at Li Ming with eyes full of terror.
Zhao Huiya and Li Yuqi were also shocked, their faces filled with disbelief. One punch. It had directly shattered the arm of the famous fitness blogger, Hua Gu. Chapter 14, You're Acting Strange Tonight.
Li Ming could actually punch with 400 kilograms of force.
Everyone was instantly thrown into chaos. As a professional coach, Li Yuqi was even more shocked.
Mike Tyson's right punch can reach up to 800 pounds, approximately 360 kilograms, yet Li Ming managed to deliver 400 kilograms with a single punch. Li Ming, an ordinary person, a college student, was capable of such immense power. The crimson numbers on the power test machine left Li Yuqi in disbelief. If she hadn't seen Li Ming shatter Hua Ji's arm with one punch, she would never have believed such strength could come from him.
It wasn't just her, no one present would believe it.
At this moment, even Hua Gu, who hadn't lost consciousness yet, nearly choked on his breath after seeing the number. In shock and dismay, he lamented his bad luck, having encountered someone like Li Ming. His team members were also bewildered, realizing they had hit a steel plate this time. Previously, everyone had thought Li Ming was arrogant and conceited, assuming he would likely be knocked out by Hua Ji's punch.
But the outcome left everyone dumbfounded.
Not only did Li Ming not get knocked out, but he also managed to destroy the arm of the well-known retired boxer Hua Gu with a single punch. The gruesome and terrifying scene was something they had never seen or imagined before. Clearly, Li Ming had shattered their perceptions. Zhao Huiya was equally stunned, staring at Li Ming's back, unable to fathom the immense strength hidden within him. No wonder Li Ming had remained so calm throughout and ignored their advice.
She recalled Li Ming's earlier words, "Auntie, call 120. Now, she realized that the ambulance was clearly called by Hua Gu, the rogue internet celebrity.
Serves him right. Thinking this, Zhao Huiya's face showed a smile.
Perhaps Li Ming wasn't as simple as she had thought. Initially, she had just regarded Li Ming as her daughter's classmate. After interacting with him, she had gradually discovered many of Li Ming's admirable qualities. He was humorous and cheerful. As their interactions continued, she had unknowingly started to consider Li Ming a friend, especially tonight, during dinner, when facing her best friend's provocations. Li Ming had used a unique way to counterattack Li Yuqi, even teasing her in front of everyone. At that moment, she admitted that she was indeed attracted to Li Ming, with no resistance in her heart. When faced with the sudden accident, Li Ming had not been angry at Li Yuqi's provocation.
Instead, he stepped up and defended both her and Li Yuqi. While they had chosen to endure in the face of Hua Ji's power, Li Ming had been clear in his stance. Even knowing he might suffer, he had risked challenging Hua Gu to a so-called friendly match for their sake. The final result had also shocked her.
She never imagined that a single punch from Li Ming could disable Hua Ji's arm.
Her heart, which had been calm, was now racing, and seeing the bloody scene only made her more unsettled. But when she saw Li Ming deliberately going over to care for Hua Gu, she couldn't help but laugh, calming down somewhat. Though her heart still raced, she was curious where Li Ming got the 30,000 yuan from.
How could someone with such a slender frame have such tremendous strength? At this moment, Li Ming walked over, removed his boxing gloves, and asked with concern, "Has the video been recorded?" Li Yuqi nodded with a complex expression, "It's all recorded. As long as he doesn't die, it's fine."
Zhao Huiya, calming down, said coldly, "If he dares to sue, I'll bring the company's lawyer."
"Don't worry."
Li Ming breathed a sigh of relief, "as long as there's no problem." If it weren't for legal issues, Li Ming wouldn't mind landing a few more punches on a scoundrel like Hua Gu.
A moment later, the ambulance arrived at the scene.
The doctor, seeing Hua Ji's arm injury, was stunned. Upon hearing the explanation from bystanders, he was even more surprised. 10 minutes later, the security cleared the crowd, uncertain who had called the police, but the officer in the hat arrived and gathered Li Ming and Hua Ji's team members. After reviewing what both sides said with their IDs, the officer fell into silence and then gave a severe verbal warning to both parties. By 10 p.m., the shock had subsided, and people were still discussing Li Ming. Videos of the incident between Li Ming and Hua Gu were also uploaded online by the spectators.
The instigator, Li Ming, was already in the back of a Porsche, enjoying the breeze and admiring the vibrant night view of the city.
Li Yuqi was going to pick up the golden retriever, and the three of them drove to Li Ming's apartment building. Along the way, the three were silent. The two women's gazes would occasionally fall on Li Ming, though they said nothing, creating a subtle atmosphere. Li Ming, meanwhile, was pondering that 800 points of strength equaled 400 kilograms.
if this continued to accumulate.
Thinking this, Li Ming squinted and felt his heart racing. The Porsche stopped at the apartment building, drawing the attention of passers-by once again.
Li Ming glanced at Li Yuqi and said, "Auntie, let me go up and bring the dog down."
Li Yuqi looked at Zhao Huiya and said, "Let's go up together." Zhao Huiya was surprised and wondered what Li Yuqi was thinking, then agreed, "Alright, let's go up together."
Li Ming frowned, sensing that Li Yuqi might have other intentions.
He felt that she wasn't entirely well-meaning.
Earlier at the restaurant, she had already caused trouble once. If he hadn't acted quickly, the scene would have been quite embarrassing.
He didn't speak, but that didn't mean he was without temper or attitude. If Li Yuqi dared to try again, Li Ming wouldn't mind teaching her how to be a well-behaved woman. Li Ming promptly refused, "No need, two aunts.
You wait for me here."
Hearing this, the two women were surprised and didn't expect Li Ming to refuse so decisively. Li Yuqi's gaze landed on Li Ming, and she glanced at Zhao Huiya. Such a straightforward refusal made her wonder if Li Ming was hiding something.
Zhao Huiya also thought about it.
Li Ming was usually very straightforward, but he suddenly had several tens of thousands of yuan today, which was very suspicious.
"No," the two women said in unison. Afterward, they exchanged glances and frowned.
Before Li Ming could speak, Zhao Huiya headed towards the stairs, and Li Yuqi followed.
Li Ming said, "Aunt Zhao, Aunt Li. It's just getting a dog. I can go by myself." Zhao Huiya asked, "Are you hiding something from Auntie?" Li Ming was surprised. "No, how could I be hiding something from you?" Li Yuqi asked, "Then why are you so anxious?"
Li Ming was speechless and said innocently, "You suddenly act like this.
How can I not be anxious?"
The two women didn't respond but quickened their pace, afraid Li Ming would get ahead. The more he explained, the more determined they became. Li Ming sighed and could only follow behind the two women.
Chapter 15, I haven't been a scumbag to you, have I? On the 4th floor, in front of room 402.
Li Ming was blocked at the door by the two charming aunts. Li Yuqi crossed her arms and looked at Li Ming, her chest pressing out. Seeing this familiar gesture made Li Ming think of his ex-girlfriend, who used to like hugging her arms in front of her chest too. At this moment, Zhao Huiya tilted her head, extended her slender, white middle finger towards Li Ming, and made a give-it-to-me gesture with a give-me expression. This action startled Li Ming, while Li Yuqi looked at her in shock.
Li Ming awkwardly asked, "Auntie, what are you signaling me for?"
Zhao Huiya chuckled, "What are you thinking?"
"I'm not trying to seduce you. I want the key." Li Yuqi sighed with relief and frowned. "Watch your manners and words, what are you saying?"
Li Ming scratched his head, took out the key, and Zhao Huiya opened the door, telling him, "You stay outside for a moment."
With that, the two women went into the room.
Li Ming frowned and, disregarding Zhao Huiya's words, directly followed them inside. Wang Kai, the dog, excitedly ran over and leaped into Zhao Huiya's ample arms, constantly rubbing against her. Zhao Huiya hugged Wang Kai, and as she felt the dog's fur, she said, "Wang Kai, you're such a good dog.
It's been so long, you missed me, didn't you?"
Li Yuqi wandered around the room, looking left and right, seemingly searching for something. Suddenly, as she reached the window, she saw the clothes hanging outside and exclaimed in surprise, "Oh. Red, Li Ming, you've got several holes in your underwear."
"What happened?" "What?"
Zhao Huiya also walked over and looked at the underwear Li Ming had hanging outside. The underwear had 3 or 4 holes of varying sizes. Some of these holes had jagged edges, clearly torn open, losing their original function of covering and appearing rather conspicuous and odd. The two women exchanged glances, and an understanding smile crept onto their faces. Their gaze toward Li Ming lowered, with curiosity in their eyes.
"Are you polite?"
Li Ming thought to himself, feeling embarrassed.
He shrank under their scrutiny. Women in their 30s are like wolves, and women in their 40s are like tigers. Both of them were in their prime.
They both knew that Li Ming was only 20, at the peak of his youthful vigor. It was understandable to have some holes in his pants, like a seed sprouting through the soil or a chick breaking out of its shell. At their age, seeing such scenes, suppressed emotions could easily stir. Zhao Huiya said directly, "Little Ming, you're really something. If your underwear is torn, tell Auntie, and she'll get you new ones."
Li Yuqi felt uneasy.
At that moment, she suddenly found her yoga pants too tight and uncomfortable. She couldn't help but lift her leg and huffed, "Hui, why are you getting so out of line?
He's your junior." Zhao Huiya gave her a sidelong glance and ignored Li Yuqi. She couldn't quite understand Li Yuqi's attitude.
Li Yuqi claimed to be worried that Li Ming might have inappropriate thoughts, but Zhao Huiya felt it wasn't the case. She had explained clearly to Li Yuqi that Li Ming wouldn't have any such thoughts, but her friend stubbornly refused to believe it, and she couldn't do much about it. Li Ming looked at the yoga-clad Li Yuqi lifting her leg and the voluptuous Zhao Huiya twisting her body. He was thirsty and wanted some water. Li Ming turned, grabbed the large bottle of iced tea from the table that he hadn't finished, and took a big gulp. Seeing Li Ming's awkward appearance, Zhao Huiya said with a hint of reproachful laughter, "You don't be so stingy with what you need to eat and wear. Don't be so frugal with yourself." After taking a look around and not finding anything unusual in Li Ming's room as she had imagined, she decided to leave. Li Yuqi, looking distressed, suddenly realized it wasn't Li Ming trying to flirt with Zhao Huiya. Rather, Zhao Huiya was subtly showing concern for Li Ming and drawing closer to him. Zhao Huiya had been single for over 30 years, focused on her studies and career, and had never shown such interest in any young man before. She pursued her own happiness and didn't object to who Zhao Huiya was with. But that person could absolutely not be Li Ming. She had been friends with Zhao Huiya for over 10 years. Since Zhao Huiya was often busy with work, she frequently left her young daughter, Zhao Zinan, in her care. Zhao Zinan would often come to her for chats when she couldn't talk to her mother, discussing everything from daily life to studies, and even emotions. She knew very well that Zhao Zinan's concern for Li Ming and her assistance to him, as well as her continuous attention from Singapore, all stemmed from her liking for Li Ming. Zhao Zinan's affection for Li Ming had started in the first year of high school and lasted until the third year. She hadn't dared to confess, and a girl from the neighboring class had taken the chance first. Zhao Zinan would talk to her almost every weekend about Li Ming and her own matters. From Zhao Zinan's perspective, Li Ming had many admirable qualities such as diligence, humor, cheerfulness, helpfulness, and principles. She was also well aware of Li Ming's flaws, such as his unserious nature and tendency to flirt with any girl, regardless of age. Zhao Zinan had been waiting for an opportunity to help Li Ming and get closer to him after his breakup. Yet now, Li Ming seemed to be getting closer to her mother. A boy she had liked for 3 years had become her family's tenant and was getting closer to her mother. This drove Zhao Zinan, who was in Singapore, to the brink of madness and even despair. Zhao Zinan anxiously called her, asking her to keep an eye on things and prevent them from developing further. Initially, Li Yuqi thought Li Ming was intentionally flirting with Zhao Huiya, so she planned to warn Li Ming to stay away from Zhao Huiya. But after observing, she suddenly realized that the problem wasn't solely Li Ming's. Zhao Huiya was also actively, gradually getting closer to Li Ming. Zhao Huiya hadn't even noticed her own proactive behavior, but Li Yuqi, as an outsider, could see it clearly. "Yuqi, what are you daydreaming about? Let's go. Little Ming needs to rest," Zhao Huiya's voice sounded. Li Yuqi snapped back to reality and saw Zhao Huiya leaning on Li Ming's shoulder, which made her feel uneasy. She directly told Zhao Huiya, "Don't get so close to Li Ming. He's someone your daughter likes." It wasn't realistic. Because Li Ming and Zhao Huiya were merely a possibility, there wasn't even a hint of anything. Moreover, Zhao Zinan hadn't even gotten close to Li Ming. Why should she intervene? But if this continued, and Zhao Huiya really did fall for Li Ming, wouldn't they become rivals? This was simply outrageous. What should she do about this mess? Li Yuqi sighed, unable to think of a good solution, feeling both confused and angry. Anyway, the core of the problem was still that scoundrel Li Ming. Damn little scumbag, making a mother and daughter so concerned about you. The more Li Yuqi thought about it, the angrier she became. She stomped her foot, walked up to Li Ming, and glared at him, "Damn scumbag." Zhao Huiya was shocked and looked at Li Ming and Li Yuqi in confusion. What's going on? After glaring at Li Ming, Li Yuqi grabbed Zhao Huiya's hand and headed outside. Chapter 16, Let's go to the hot springs together. Inside, the Porsche the car was not yet running. The two women sat inside, wrapped in the soft leather seats, with Zhao Huiya turning on the massage function. As the seats vibrated and moved, the two women gradually relaxed amidst the buzzing sounds, resting their heads against the headrests and enjoying the electric vibrations. The night breeze was gentle, and the comfort of their bodies and the pleasant mood made Zhao Huiya hum softly. Li Yuqi, on the other hand, was deep in thought, struggling with how to solve the issue with Li Ming. After a moment, Zhao Huiya asked curiously, "Yuqi, you said Li Ming is a scumbag. What's that about? He seems like a pretty upright guy to me." "Upright? Upright enough to flirt with both of you?" Li Yuqi thought angrily, unsure of how to explain. She considered it for a moment and then directly asked, "You wouldn't have developed feelings for Li Ming, would you?" Zhao Huiya laughed, "The kid is quite well behaved, and I do like him. Besides, tonight I suddenly realized he seems to have some secrets."
I want to see what he's hiding. Li Yuqi looked at Zhao Huiya, who was vibrating in her seat, and said very seriously, when I said like, I meant the romantic kind, not just admiration or approval for a younger person. Zhao Huiya's eyes widened in surprise as she looked at Li Yuqi, as if she understood something. She was slightly shocked. You just called him a scumbag, and now you're saying this. Yuqi, did you two have a one-night stand or something? Li Yuqi rolled her eyes and said helplessly, just don't get involved with him romantically. Zhao Huiya was speechless. You're being contradictory and cryptic. If you're not going to explain, fine. I still need to go home and do my facial masks, chest masks, butt masks, waist masks, and leg masks. Hehe, I haven't taken good care of myself in a while. With that, Zhao Huiya started the car and drove towards Haiyue Bay. In the room, Li Ming took a cold shower to calm himself down. The two ants were simply too alluring. Just seeing them was enough to stimulate him, let alone being in the same room with them, talking about things, and making provocative moves. For someone as energetic as him, it was almost torturous. When he was with his ex-girlfriend Shen Wenlian, if there was a feeling, they would release it on the spot without any need to hold back. When things got wild, it was like superwomen, the whip of God, riding horses. Unfortunately, Shen Wenlian was materialistic, and so was his mother. 2 years of love, with its ups and downs, eventually turned out to be an empty fantasy. After calming down, Li Ming sat on the edge of the bed, planning to get a good night's sleep and think about work and earning money the next day. Recently, he had been living in a reversed schedule, spending time and energy for meager earnings, and his body was quite tired. His father's medical expenses were sorted out, and he had been moved to a first-class care ward, no longer needing to worry every day. He always thought that earning money was for a better life. Now that he had the ability to earn, he wanted to rest well before working again. No one chooses to overwork for money if it's not absolutely necessary. Living under the control of money is mere survival. Being able to control money is living. He wanted to live well, not be a beast of burden. Ding dong. Li Ming saw that it was a WeChat message from Shen Wenlian. It was strange. He had just been reminiscing about the high points of their relationship when she sent him a message. Curiously, he opened it. Shen Wenlian, you're trending. You gained 200,000 followers in less than 2 hours. The video we shot together has 30,000 comments and over 1 million likes. Check it out. Li Ming was shocked. He opened the app to find numerous red notifications, private messages, and call invitations. The first video was a montage of him taking out Flower Brother with a punch and then smashing the 400-kilogram strength test machine with another punch. A prominent red title above the video read, Weak student injures retired boxer, explodes street strength test machine. He opened related videos and found someone had detailed the events leading up to it, impartially and objectively. Li Ming browsed the comments and saw that many netizens had given him nicknames like One Punch Guy and Auntie's Expert. Zhao Huiya and Li Yuqi had also gained attention because of him. He checked his account and saw that his follower count was rapidly increasing, already reaching tens of thousands and still growing. Not only on the app, but there were also reports across various browsers and platforms. Li Ming smiled. He hadn't expected that a sudden overnight fame would come to him. As he was about to check his private messages, a panel popped up. Boxing once, plus 300,000 yuan, strength plus 20, experience plus 200. Strength test once, plus 18,000 yuan, strength plus 5, experience plus 50. Blogger once, plus 500,000 yuan, experience plus 500. Level, LV3, 754,000. 2,454,000 yuan? Seeing this number, Li Ming's heart raced, and he was stunned. How could there be so much? He quickly opened the panel details. The boxing amount was based on Flower Brothers' appearance fee. The blogger amount was based on the potential value of his account, conservatively estimated. Li Ming was overjoyed to suddenly have 5 million yuan. It confirmed the saying, no windfall, no wealth, no night grass, no fat horse. Accumulating wealth slowly is not feasible for becoming rich, and the money of the rich doesn't come in small chunks. The innate environment often determines whether someone can become wealthy or have a future. Li Ming did not reply to Shen Wenlian's message. Instead, he opened his app and found his only video. The video was a couple photo of him and Shen Wenlian in matching outfits, which he deleted immediately. Then, he took out his ID card, covered the important information except for his name, and began recording a video. Hello everyone, I'm the One Punch Guy, my name is Li Ming. Li Ming didn't want to waste this valuable opportunity. In this era of traffic, becoming an online influencer was undoubtedly the best choice for making money. Ding dong. Shen Wenlian, what does this mean? After 2 years of relationship, you just delete everything? Li Ming didn't reply. What nonsense. Why wasn't she like this when she dumped me? How cheap. Ding dong. Shen Wenlian, I'll register an account called Li Ming's ex-girlfriend. Is that okay? Begging. Just consider it compensation for these 2 years, alright? Looking forward. Li Ming, no. Shen Wenlian, then how about One Punch Guy's ex-girlfriend? Can I? Ming. Looking forward. Li Ming raised an eyebrow. Shen Wenlian was as predictable as ever. He didn't reply.
Shen Wenlian, your silence means you've agreed.
Thank you, Ming. Love you.
I'll treat you to a meal when we have the chance.
Happy.
Li Ming didn't reply to Shen Wenlian again. His phone was already ringing off the hook with one call after another, likely from businesses or advertisers wanting to collaborate. Li Ming didn't immediately answer the calls because he was unfamiliar with them and didn't want to be scammed. He needed to consult Zhao Huiya tomorrow before making any decisions. Collaborating with advertisers and businesses was necessary. Industries or fields he had never worked in before could provide high experience, which he valued the most. Once his level reached 1,000, he wouldn't need to engage in complex, high-risk investments and projects. He would only need to do household chores, wash dishes, and help Zhao Huiya with minor repairs to have a substantial income. After sorting things out, Li Ming prepared to sleep. Just then, the phone rang again. Why is it that being unromantic is a crime, always waiting for something special? Zhao Auntie calling. Li Ming was puzzled. Why was it that whenever he thought of a woman, she contacted him? He answered the phone and heard Zhao Huiya's gentle voice. Li Ming, let's go to the hot springs tomorrow. Don't refuse. I have something important to discuss with you. Beep. Before Li Ming could say anything, Zhao Huiya hung up the phone. Chapter 17, Flattering Auntie. What? You invited Li Ming to the hot springs? No way. I don't agree. In the gym, Li Yuqi, drenched in sweat and with some areas of her outfit showing discoloration, was panting heavily. She continued, can't you discuss business collaborations at the office? Why go to the hot springs? On the other end of the phone, Zhao Huiya was amused and exasperated. It's the weekend, and Li Ming is my friend. Is it so strange that I want to relax and work with a friend? Friend? The relationship seems to be getting closer. Li Yuqi quickly emphasized, he's your junior, not your friend. Zhao Huiya said, are you coming or not? If not, we'll go by ourselves. Li Yuqi was anxious. Letting a young and energetic guy and a woman in her 30s go to the hot springs alone was bound to end badly. She said, I'm coming too. Come pick me up now. Ignoring what she was wearing, she grabbed her phone and ran out of the gym, waiting anxiously at the door. 15 minutes later. Zhao Huiya arrived in her Porsche, dressed in a stylish, minimalistic sundress and denim shorts. She had a bright and confident smile on her face. Li Ming was in the passenger seat, wearing a short-sleeved shirt, shorts, and sunglasses, looking relaxed at first glance. The two really did seem like a couple dressed alike. Li Yuqi said nothing and quickly walked to the car, pulling open the door. Li Ming, sit in the back. I want the front seat. Li Ming looked at the sweat-drenched Li Yuqi, whose yoga pants were soaked through. He was surprised. Auntie Yuqi, you're so sweaty. The back seat is more spacious and comfortable. Li Yuqi shook her head. Just do as I say. Saying that, she reached out, grabbed Li Ming's shoulder, and forcibly pulled him from the passenger seat. As they jostled, Li Ming felt the warmth and smelled the unique mix of sweat and body scent. He reluctantly got out of the passenger seat and sat in the back. Li Yuqi's vigilance was something he had come to expect. Zhao Huiya simply shook her head and smiled, asking, aren't you going to change your clothes? Li Yuqi replied, no smell, no need to change. She silently thought that she must prevent Li Ming and Zhao Huiya from being alone together before Zhao Zinan came back. Once Zhao Zinan successfully confessed his feelings, this problem would be resolved. Zhao Huiya was in a good mood. She said with a smile, fasten your seatbelts. We're off. With that, the Porsche roared to life, and the car sped off. For a moment, the three of them yelled and screamed in excitement as they headed towards the outskirts of Jiang City.
Ichuan Villa was a private wild hot spring. Located in a remote area of Zheng City, hidden among lush mountains and forests. After an hour's drive, Li Ming and the two women finally arrived at the parking lot. Zhao Huiya led the way, smiling as she introduced, "This place has a great environment. I really like it here. Little Ming, if you have the chance, I'll bring you here often." Li Ming nodded. "Sure, thank you, Auntie." Li Yuqi furrowed her brows again and said, "From now on, you must always take me with you every time you come." Zhao Huiya hugged Li Yuqi's waist and rested her chin on her shoulder with a radiant smile. "Ha, of course you won't be left out." Li Yuqi huffed, "That's more like it." She took Zhao Huiya's hand and smiled as they all walked towards the entrance. The wooden gate was simple and unadorned, with Ichuan Villa engraved on it. Upon entering, a cobblestone path wound through to various small hot spring pools. The pools varied in shape, surrounded by lush greenery. Towels and bathrobes were neatly arranged by each pool, and there were friendly reminders posted throughout the area. The whole place was clean and refreshing. Li Ming was amazed by the upscale environment. It was his first time here, and he couldn't help but look around with curiosity, like a country bumpkin in the city. Zhao Huiya turned back and smiled, "Hurry up, little Ming. Auntie booked a private area, and it's inside." "Private area?" Li Yuqi was secretly relieved that she came alone. In the private hot spring area, Zone A. Though small, it had everything: a small hot spring pool, a separate sauna room, and an assortment of snacks. Li Ming stripped off his clothes and went straight into the hot spring. It felt very hot at first, but after adjusting, he felt completely relaxed. Zhao Huiya, wearing a black lace swimsuit that subtly revealed her curves and glowing skin, her long hair flowing over her shoulders, smiled at Li Ming. Li Yuqi, in a red bikini, had a curvaceous figure with a contrast between her slim waist and full bust. Her gaze was playful and wary as she watched Li Ming closely. The two women walked towards the hot spring pool, their movements graceful as they entered the water. Zhao Huiya tilted her head back and closed her eyes, savoring the experience. Li Yuqi deliberately positioned herself between the two, her eyes darting between them with vigilance. Li Ming resignedly edged to the side, noting that Li Yuqi was guarding him like a thief. He was certain that if he moved closer to Zhao Huiya, Li Yuqi would definitely react. At this moment, Zhao Huiya opened her eyes and asked, "Li Ming, how is your father doing?" Li Ming didn't want to mention his father's transfer to the intensive care unit. He smiled and said, "Auntie, he's recovering well." Zhao Huiya nodded and then got straight to the point. "Little Ming, I mentioned before that I owe you a favor. I'm now planning to repay that favor, and since your father needs money urgently, I'll give you two options. One is for me to give you 1 million directly. The other is to cooperate with our company, though it's not guaranteed to succeed. Which one do you choose?" Li Ming was astonished. Li Yuqi looked at Zhao Huiya in shock, unable to speak. Zhao Huiya was usually rational and even sometimes cold-hearted when it came to work, only talking about profits and never personal favors. Her formal and serious offer indicated that Li Ming had indeed been of significant help to Zhao Huiya in her work. But Li Ming had just dropped out of college and hadn't learned any relevant professional knowledge or gained any work experience. How did he manage to help Zhao Huiya so significantly? Li Yuqi reconsidered Li Ming and wondered how he would choose. At 20 years old and inexperienced, and needing money urgently, choosing the 1 million would be the most sensible option. At this moment, Li Ming decisively said, "Auntie, please explain the details of the cooperation." Li Yuqi was stunned, and Zhao Huiya was also surprised. 1 million is a huge sum for you, and your father needs it urgently. Don't you want it? Li Ming thought to himself. Previously, he would have chosen the 1 million without hesitation. Now, with the 250,000 he had, he wasn't as eager. The panel rewards were calculated based on market prices for each industry and project. If he could cooperate with Zhao Huiya's company, no matter what project it was, if successful, it would be 3 times the payout and would also increase his experience. Why not? Li Ming sincerely said, "I don't think Auntie owes me any favor. I wouldn't accept the 1 million without merit. A month ago, if it weren't for you taking us in, my father and I might still be homeless. I think if I have the opportunity to work under you, Auntie, whether it's cleaning or organizing documents." Chapter 18, The Small Wild Spring, Rippling with Blue Waves. "Are you flattering Auntie?" Zhao Huiya asked seriously, her eyes blinking as she looked at Li Ming. Li Ming replied with equal seriousness, "As long as Auntie is happy." After a moment of mutual gazing, Zhao Huiya smiled and said, "You make me very happy." So, shall we discuss the collaboration? Li Ming nodded. I'm all ears. Zhao Huiya was pleased with Li Ming's attitude and continued with a smile. You might not be familiar with our company, so let me give you a brief introduction. Our company, Jixing Technology, focuses primarily on AI and robotics. We're not the top in the country, but we have our core competencies. Recently, we've launched a new construction robot called Li. It can easily lift various heavy objects. She paused, looking at Li Ming and Li Yuqi. Li Ming, did you know you've gone viral overnight? Li Ming nodded. He had seen the explosion of attention online that morning. Li Yuqi, on the other hand, was puzzled. She picked up the waterproof bag hanging from her chest and opened her phone, gasping, 1.09 million followers? She looked at Li Ming in disbelief, unable to speak. From their first meeting, to dining together, to Li Ming's knockout punch on Huago, and now the 100 million. Her existing perception of Li Ming was being continuously reshaped. Zhao Huiya was right. Li Ming had many standout qualities. Li Ming, unsure, asked, Auntie, do you want me to endorse your robot? Zhao Huiya praised him, smart. She continued, the key feature of Li is its great power. Since you've gone viral overnight and our product is about to launch, I'd like to invite you to be the spokesperson for Li. With that, Zhao Huiya took out her phone and sent Li Ming a video. Li Ming played the video, which showed the Li robot busy working at a construction site. It expertly grabbed steel bars, lifted cement and red bricks, and moved them to designated areas with agility and stability. Zhao Huiya explained, Li uses the most advanced power and control systems, making it adaptable to various complex construction environments. It also has a high durability and can work continuously for long periods. Li Ming was amazed. Such a robot is not only useful on construction sites but also in logistics, transportation, and disaster relief. Zhao Huiya nodded. Exactly. However, we're still missing one crucial step before mass production, but it's coming soon. Our company plans to start promotional activities to raise the product's profile, and we need a spokesperson. I think Li paired with your one punch 1,000 pounds is a perfect fit. However, since you've given up the 1 million, I don't want you to be at a loss. I'm planning to set up a small team under my supervision to handle the marketing and promotion of our company's products. As Zhao Huiya spoke, she suddenly stood up from the hot spring with a splash underneath her black lace swimsuit. Her smooth skin was visible, but she looked serious as she said to Li Ming, Mr. Li Ming, you have 1 million followers online and great potential. Your image aligns well with our product. I'm very satisfied with today's interview. I'd like to offer you the position of team leader in our marketing and planning department at Jixing Technology. Will you join us? With that, Zhao Huiya, her slender hand still glistening with water, formally extended the invitation to Li Ming. Li Ming stood up from the hot spring as well, smiling as he shook Zhao Huiya's hand. I'm honored. The two smiled at each other and said in unison, looking forward to a pleasant collaboration. Li Yuqi watched them in a daze. An interview? Joining the company? Wasn't this supposed to be about collaboration? How did it turn into becoming colleagues? She seemed to recall something and quickly stood up, saying, Hey! Hey! No handshakes, Yuri, not allowed to shake hands. Seeing her anxious expression, Li Ming held onto Li Yuqi's hand. He grasped both women's hands with his large hand and said, Auntie Li, you come too. This action made both women stare at Li Ming, one in shock, the other with a resentful gaze. Zhao Huiya shook off Li Ming's hand, spread her arms, and splashed water at him, drenching him. She laughed and scolded, You little brat, daring to take advantage of both of us at once. Li Yuqi also reacted, already displeased. She jumped up, threw her arms around Li Ming's neck, extended her leg forward, and performed a throw, sending Li Ming into the hot spring. Damn, glub glub, you're bullying the small. Li Ming was tossed around, disoriented. Zhao Huiya, with a playful spirit, jumped on Li Ming's back, assing her weight advantage. She pushed Li Ming into the hot spring, laughing, Haha, so what if I'm bullying you? Li Yuqi joined in, grabbing Li Ming's legs and scolding, Little scumbag, today I, Li Yuqi, will teach you a lesson. In an instant, the already small hot spring was splashing everywhere, with laughter, scolding, and occasional squeals of delight filling the air. The small wild spring rippled with blue waves. The warm water splashed everywhere, and the hearts of the three were as turbulent as the spring, rising and falling. An hour later. In the hot spring, the two women were leaning against each other, while Li Ming sat across from them.
The heat had given their faces a rosy glow, creating a misty atmosphere. Li Ming reflected on the thrilling chaos earlier. During the scuffle, he nearly breached their defenses several times. However, at a crucial moment, Li Yuqi suddenly woke up, repelled him, and rescued Zhao Huiya. This left Li Ming feeling quite frustrated. He couldn't force himself upon them, that would be illegal. He could only sigh from across the small hot spring. The two alluring women were already irresistible, and Li Ming struggled to control himself. Unexpectedly, Zhao Huiya ignored any sense of decorum, adding fuel to the fire. Li Yuqi went crazy, directly body-slamming him. The young man was already sensitive and irritable. Such provocation led to almost violent playful antics. After a while, Zhao Huiya still felt her ears burning. She gave Li Ming a resentful glance and said, "It's too hot. I'm going to take a shower." With that, she gracefully stood up from the water. Li Ming also felt overheated and wanted to balance it with some cool water. He said, "I'm going too." "Stay put. You're not going anywhere." Suddenly, Li Yuqi's cold voice rang out. Her beautiful eyes fixed on Li Ming with a hint of hostility. She recalled the earlier scene and felt a chill down her spine. She was a woman in her 30s. Her actions earlier had indeed been like pouring oil on the fire. Fortunately, she realized it in time, otherwise, the small wild spring would have surely turned into a battlefield for the three of them. Chapter 19, You Really Are a Player. Are you asking me to go to the changing room alone? Li Ming looked confused, while Zhao Huiya glanced over with a meaningful expression. Since the moment she met Li Ming, Li Yuqi's words and actions had been quite strange. Zhao Huiya could tell that Li Yuqi didn't dislike Li Ming but was very concerned about the distance between him and herself. It was obvious she didn't want Li Ming to get too close. As longtime best friends, Zhao Huiya had never encountered this situation before. She now had two suspicions. The first was that there might be a secret between Li Yuqi and Li Ming that she wasn't aware of. The second was that Li Yuqi might have feelings for Li Ming. Only these two possibilities could explain why Li Yuqi didn't want her and Li Ming to get too close. Zhao Huiya felt conflicted. She admired Li Ming and cared about Li Yuqi. But now, Li Yuqi was deliberately avoiding her and seeking Li Ming out alone, clearly wanting to keep their conversation private. Zhao Huiya took out her new MateBook 14 laptop, popped a cherry in her mouth, and seemed to be working seriously while typing away on the keyboard. Yet her eyes occasionally glanced towards Li Ming. She said, "Xiao Ming, Yuqi has been acting strange lately. After you two talk, you can share what was discussed with Auntie." Li Ming nodded. He wasn't foolish and could see Zhao Huiya's mood and state. If he didn't tell Zhao Huiya about their conversation, she might become even more suspicious of his relationship with Li Yuqi, making it harder to explain. Besides, Li Yuqi's inexplicable staring at him gave him a feeling of being monitored. Even if Li Yuqi didn't bring it up today, Li Ming planned to find a chance to understand what was going on, but women's hearts are as unpredictable as the depths of the sea. Who knows what she's really thinking? From their interactions today, Li Ming was quite sure that neither woman was strictly a single-minded person. They had their own instinctive needs. These needs were as fundamental as eating and drinking. If neglected for a long time, both physical and mental issues would arise. Could it be that Li Yuqi's behavior towards him was due to such reasons? With these thoughts in mind, Li Ming entered the changing room. The changing room was larger than Li Ming had imagined. Li Yuqi was wearing a light pink bathrobe as thin as a cicada's wing, loosely tied at the waist, revealing glimpses of her fair skin and delicate collarbone. Her long hair cascaded loosely over her shoulders, adding a touch of languid charm. The lighting was soft and warm, with several spare bathrobes neatly hanging on a wooden rack. A pair of delicate slippers rested on a small stool nearby. Li Yuqi sat on the stool, her gaze occasionally flickering towards the door. Her cheeks were still faintly flushed from earlier, and she looked at Li Ming with a slightly complex expression. Li Ming cautiously stood at the door, not entering, and smiled at her. "Wow, keeping your distance like that, are you afraid I'll eat you? Why weren't you like this earlier?" Li Yuqi said with a hint of reproach. Earlier in the hot spring, she and Zhao Huiya had had so much fun that they were very close to Li Ming. Now, her heart was still racing, with the intense contact stimulating every nerve. Afraid? Li Ming wasn't sure how to respond. Ever since Li Yuqi had tricked him at Weiji Temple, he had been wary of her. He smiled and said, "Auntie Li, if you have something to say, just go ahead." "I'm listening." Li Yuqi sighed with resignation. "You don't need to be so on guard. Auntie just wants to chat with you." Li Ming said nothing and quietly waited, watching her. Li Yuqi stood up and walked over with a swish, her bathrobe swaying. She took hold of Li Ming's arm and sat down on the small stool, crossing her legs.
Li Ming's gaze involuntarily fell to the gap in her bathrobe.
Li Yuqi said, "Auntie has something to tell you, but you mustn't tell Zhao Auntie."
Is that all right? Li Ming nodded, subconsciously examining Li Yuqi. Could it be that Auntie Li actually likes him?
She was indeed fit, thanks to her years of exercising, her physique was strong and firm, and certainly, she would have a powerful grasp. At 33, 13 years older than him. She'd make a fine girlfriend. After all, dating a fitness enthusiast like Li Auntie would offer a unique experience. However, someone like her would be more suited to being a girlfriend rather than a wife. Li Yuqi noticed Li Ming's wandering eyes and felt her face flush slightly, feeling a bit uncomfortable. Nan wasn't wrong, this guy is good at flirting with women. She said, "Behave yourself.
Auntie is discussing something serious." Li Ming said earnestly, "Please go ahead, Auntie."
Li Yuqi hesitated for a moment before speaking. Nan has always liked you."
"Did you know that?" Li Ming, after a moment of surprise, sighed with relief and said, "Oh. I thought it was something else." "Just this?" Hearing Li Ming's tone, Li Yuqi looked puzzled and frowned. "You knew she liked you?"
Li Ming replied matter-of-factly, "Of course.
I knew 3 years ago." Li Yuqi fell silent, suddenly feeling like a fool. She asked, "You knew 3 years ago? And then? You got together with someone else?"
Li Ming answered seriously, "During high school, there were over 10 girls who liked me, and 4 of them confessed.
I chose the one I liked most." "The one you liked most?" Li Yuqi was taken aback by Li Ming's honesty, her mouth hanging open in surprise. She asked, "Then, what about Nan?" Li Ming frowned. "She didn't confess to me. I couldn't possibly be with her while already having a girlfriend, could I?"
Li Yuqi was at a loss for words, not knowing how to respond.
She couldn't force Li Ming to be with Zhao Zinan, could she? She sighed, "How do you feel about her? Do you like her?" Hearing this question, Li Ming smiled and said, "She's a great person.
Just like Zhao Auntie and you, very caring."
Seeing Li Ming deflect the topic and not wanting to delve deeper, Li Yuqi didn't know what to say. Was she supposed to tell Li Ming to keep his distance from Zhao Huiya because Zhao Zinan liked him? That's illogical. Should she directly tell Li Ming to keep away from Zhao Huiya because Zhao Zinan likes him? That would undermine Zhao Huiya's rights. Such reasoning doesn't exist in reality. Or should she ask Li Ming to distance himself from Zhao Huiya? On what grounds? It's completely unrealistic.
Li Yuqi felt overwhelmed, realizing the situation was inherently unsolvable. Reflecting on her past actions towards Li Ming, she found them somewhat ridiculous. She looked at Li Ming quietly, then sighed and said, "You really are."
Li Ming asked, "I am what?" Li Yuqi, with a mix of exasperation and amusement, replied, "A total player." Chapter 20, Encounter with an Old Classmate.
The private butler was stunned.
Did she misjudge today? Li Ming was the wealthy one?
Her high standards were evident. After a brief moment of surprise, she quickly regained her smile. She handed the tablet to Li Ming and said with a smile, "Mr. Li, please take a look and see which service package you need."
Mr. Li?
It was the first time someone had called him that. Although it felt a bit strange, he secretly enjoyed it. Without even looking at the tablet or understanding the so-called packages, he boldly said, "No need to look, just give us the most expensive oil massage package with the best therapist."
Huh? At these words, Zhao Huiya and the other 2 women were stunned, and the female butler uncertainly asked, "Are you sure?"
Li Ming looked like a student, scanning the room as soon as he entered. The butler was certain Li Ming didn't know how high the prices here were and feared he might cause a scene once he found out. She needed to explain things clearly to him first. As a reception butler, she encountered such situations frequently. Many people came in like Li Ming, displaying great extravagance, only to complain and argue at the checkout. She had seen many people fail to impress in this manner. Especially seeing the expressions of Zhao Huiya and the others, she knew Li Ming wanted to show off in front of them. She explained, "You might want to take a look first. Our prices are significantly higher than elsewhere." Li Ming raised an eyebrow and said, "I want the most expensive option." Do I need to repeat myself? Hearing this, the female butler's expression stiffened slightly. She awkwardly smiled and said, "Mr. Li, please follow me."
Li Ming, along with Zhao Huiya and the others, followed the butler into a large room. The oil massage room was simply and naturally decorated.
Soft lighting, soothing music, and aromatherapy created a relaxing atmosphere. There were comfortable massage beds and storage areas, separated by curtains with good soundproofing. The overall setting allowed for a private space to fully enjoy the soothing and peaceful experience of the oil massage.
The butler smiled and said, "Mr.
Li, please wait here for a moment while I get the best therapists for you." 5 minutes later, the butler returned with 6 young women, dressed in elegant uniforms and exhibiting graceful and professional manners. Clearly having undergone rigorous training, they pushed carts filled with high-end essential oils and massage tools, each wearing a warm and professional smile. The butler raised her hand and introduced, "Therapists number 1 through 6, please choose." Li Ming looked up and immediately made eye contact with the therapist on the far left.
The woman, upon seeing Li Ming, displayed a look of shock.
After confirming a few times, she appeared quite astonished.
To run into Li Ming here?
Li Ming also smiled, surprised to see a familiar face. "I'll choose therapist number 1, Li Ming said immediately.
Zhao Huiya and Li Yuqi didn't notice anything unusual about Li Ming.
They casually selected a therapist and started enjoying their massage after pulling down the curtain. Li Ming looked at the young woman in uniform and said, "Song Lin, I didn't expect to see you here."
Song Lin's cheeks flushed slightly as she responded in shock, "It's been a year.
You've changed so much, and you're here with 2 beautiful women for the most expensive package. I just heard from Sister Zhang that a big client had booked the most expensive package. I didn't expect it to be you."
Li Ming was Xin Wenlian's ex-boyfriend, and she was Xin Wenlian's close friend.
Xin Wenlian had once brought her to dine with Li Ming, so she remembered him.
After Li Ming dropped out of school, she hadn't seen him again. Song Lin had heard some details about Li Ming's situation.
Xin Wenlian mentioned that Li Ming came from a single-parent family and was poor, and the reason she was with him was because of his performance. Beyond that, there was nothing else.
Li Ming was poor? How could a poor person afford to spend money at ES Spring?
And Li Ming even brought 2 sophisticated beauties to spend on the most expensive package. Others might not have a sense of the costs here, but Song Lin was very clear. For example, the pastries and fruit platter on the table. One set of pastries made with Alps honey costs 1,200 yuan per serving.
A luxurious fruit platter made from rare fruits around the world costs 1,800 yuan.
The massage used 3 types of essential oils, with a bottle of Damascus rose oil costing 3,000 yuan and Bulgarian white rose oil costing 6,000 yuan.
Just a small bottle could equal a month's salary for an average person.
The most expensive part was the therapist's fee, which was 8,000 yuan per hour, with a service fee of 1,800 yuan per person per hour. This entire service for 3 hours cost 40,000 yuan per person, equivalent to a year's income for an average laborer. Li Ming's consumption at such a place had completely shattered her perceptions.
Wasn't Li Ming dropped by her friend because he was poor? Wasn't his dropout due to financial reasons? Was it all just an excuse? While still immersed in shock, Song Lin was suddenly asked by Li Ming, "How much do you make per hour here?"
Song Lin's cheeks reddened slightly as she replied, "The fee is 8,000 yuan per hour, with 4,500 yuan per hour after deductions."
Li Ming asked, "How about for 24 hours? Chapter 21, Aromatherapy Shower. Ah. Song Lin's face showed a mix of embarrassment and irritation. A 24-hour service was just a day and a night.
She heard the underlying meaning in Li Ming's question. If anyone else had asked, she would either provide the price directly or refuse outright. But Li Ming was her best friend's ex-boyfriend, someone she was acquainted with. It was already embarrassing enough to be discovered by Li Ming here, and to have him choose her when Li Ming asked this question. Song Lin felt as if she were being exposed, standing naked in front of him. She felt very uncomfortable. However, seeing Li Ming's serious expression, it seemed he was just discussing work matters, which relaxed her a little. She wasn't angry at Li Ming's offense since she had accepted the job knowing and agreeing to certain rules. If she didn't accept these rules, she wouldn't have been hired.
Song Lin blushed and said, "I don't know. I usually offer the basic services and haven't tried the premium ones." Premium and basic?
Li Ming learned a new term. He curiously asked, "I remember you had excellent grades and won a scholarship.
How did you end up as a therapist?"
Song Lin replied, "My family had some issues, and I urgently needed money. Well, let's not talk about it." As she spoke, her eyes reddened, and she patted her face, forcing a smile.
"Let me give you a massage and let's talk about something happy."
Li Ming, seeing this, chose not to press further. He wasn't in the habit of digging into people's wounds.
Song Lin adjusted her mood, stood gracefully, and offered a standard smile. Mr.
Li, therapist number 01 will now begin your service. Seeing his ex-girlfriend's close friend in this position, Li Ming felt a bit out of place. There was an indescribable sense of guilt and exhilaration.
It was hard to explain but undeniably exciting.
He was very curious about Song Lin's techniques, which made her one of the highest-paid therapists at ES Spring.
Song Lin's face grew warmer.
She softly said, Mr. Li, I will now start your aromatherapy shower. I'll check the water temperature for you. If it's too hot or too cold, just let me know, and I'll adjust it. Her voice was gentle and soft.
Please stand inside.
The first step is the shower, then applying the shower products, and finally rinsing. After drying, I'll start the full-body oil massage. Oh, and please remove your bathrobe.
Ah. Li Ming looked at Song Lin in surprise. Aromatherapy shower? Translated, that's just a bath.
High school classmate, ex-girlfriend's close friend, therapist number 01, this is quite stimulating.
Song Lin's face turned even redder.
She murmured, Mr.
Li, you've chosen the top-tier service package, which includes the aromatherapy shower.
It's my first time handling this package. If you feel uncomfortable or don't want it, we can skip it and proceed to the oil massage. At these words, Li Ming immediately interrupted, I've paid for it, so we can't skip it.
Song Lin gave Li Ming a shy glance and continued to smile. All right, Mr. Li, let's begin. Her massage technique was very professional.
She started by gently showering Li Ming's body with a handheld showerhead, moving from his head, fingers, and toes to his chest. She softly said, this step helps promote blood circulation and metabolism. After 10 minutes, Li Ming's body was relieved and gently pressed. He felt comfortable all over, as if enveloped in a warm ocean.
Song Lin's delicate hands inevitably touched him.
She remained professional, though her face was flushed. After the shower, she poured body wash onto a sponge, added 3 to 4 drops of essential oil, and began massaging Li Ming's entire body. This step lasted a full 15 minutes, with every inch of skin and cell being massaged. Song Lin's forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat, but her smile remained.
Ignoring Li Ming's reactions, she continued her work.
Li Ming shivered with pleasure, eyes closed, drifting into bliss.
Expensive massage, top-notch service, ultimate enjoyment, a heart racing with excitement. It felt great to be wealthy. No wonder the fees are so high. With this kind of service, it's worth it. No wonder many rich people have such well-maintained bodies. They enjoy this kind of blissful life daily and can experience countless different pleasures. Good life, naturally good body. Li Ming couldn't help but reflect on the charm of money.
At that moment, Song Lin's soft voice interrupted his thoughts.
Mr. Li, we'll now rinse you off. Can you handle cold water?
If so, after rinsing your skin, we'll use slightly cooler water for 1 to 2 minutes to tighten your skin.
Li Ming replied, sure, rinse away.
5 minutes later, with the cooler water rinsing him, Li Ming felt a bit more composed and refreshed.
He stood still as Song Lin dried his skin with a soft, fragrant towel.
Song Lin let out a relieved breath, her eyes not daring to wander down. She thought to herself, no wonder Shen Wenlian always said Li Ming was great. Song Lin continued to smile, Mr.
Li, let's start the oil massage now. Please lie down and take your time.
Li Ming had a soft white towel draped over his waist as he lay on the bed, closing his eyes. Song Lin rubbed her hands together to distribute the essential oil evenly in her palms. Then, starting from Li Ming's feet, she used her warm, strong hands to gently knead, each movement precise, as if finding every muscle's tension point. Her fingers danced like agile performers on Li Ming's skin, sometimes pressing, sometimes kneading, sometimes lightly tapping, gradually loosening the tense muscles.
As the massage progressed, Song Lin moved upward to Li Ming's legs.
She held Li Ming's calves with both hands, rhythmically kneading and increasing the pressure, as if squeezing out all fatigue. Then, she gently glided her fingers along the meridians of his legs, producing a tingling sensation. Next was the back. She used both hands to start from the shoulders, slowly moving down along the spine, applying just the right amount of pressure to gradually relax Li Ming's back muscles. She also used her elbows to press on key areas, providing a deep comfort. Li Ming nearly moaned with pleasure. No wonder so many people go to foot massage places to relax. Massage is indeed a fantastic way to unwind. Ex-girlfriend's close friend, high school classmate, essential oil massage, aromatherapy shower, he felt today's spending was truly worthwhile.
At this moment, Song Lin couldn't help but ask her curiosity, Li Ming, is it really because of family issues that you dropped out of school? Li Ming, with his eyes still closed, replied calmly, yes. Chapter 22, Everything is Fate. Upon hearing Song Lin's subtle probing, Li Ming understood.
Indeed, it was money that had created a fateful connection between Song Lin and him.
Li Ming replied, I don't have a girlfriend. Song Lin sighed with a smile, I really envy you.
You're so young but already have your own career.
You're not avoiding finding a girlfriend because you're still waiting for Wenlian, are you?
Li Ming was speechless. Song Lin's attempt at flattery wasn't very convincing. He said directly, actually, I always thought you were prettier than Shen Wenlian, more accomplished, and with a better temper. It's a pity back then.
I'm better than Shen Wenlian? A pity back then?
Upon hearing this, Song Lin's eyes flickered.
She said with a joking tone, it's a pity we didn't get together back then? It's not too late now. He. Did she just throw out a hook, expecting him to bite?
Li Ming thought, it seems Song Lin was a bit materialistic too, otherwise, she wouldn't be best friends with Shen Wenlian. Their only difference was that Song Lin pursued wealth through her own methods, while Shen Wenlian only thought about making money off others.
Li Ming smiled and said, I'm not dating anyone.
As soon as he finished speaking, he felt the massage on his back turn into a soft, delicate touch. He could already imagine the scene of a mountain pressing down on him.
Song Lin's soft voice came, then we can be friends.
If you need anything in the future, just send me a message on WeChat. I'll be there regardless of the weather. Li Ming remained silent, simply closing his eyes and enjoying the pleasure that money could bring. 3 hours later, Li Ming, in a bathrobe, felt completely comfortable and refreshed. Zhao Huiya and the other woman looked more radiant, with good color and spirits. Li Ming waved to the housekeeper standing at a distance and said, please tally up today's expenses. Moments later, a housekeeper walked over with a card reader and a bill, smiling, Mr. Li, today's total is 146,400 yuan. We won't charge you for the small change, so the total is 146,000 yuan. Hearing the amount, Li Ming felt indifferent. He took out his card and handed it to her, please also issue me a new card with 500,000 yuan loaded onto it.
The performance for this card should be credited to Song Lin.
Upon hearing this, Song Lin looked at Li Ming with surprise, and the 5 other therapists around her showed expressions of envy. They didn't expect Song Lin to secure a 500,000 yuan performance. The most important part wasn't the 500,000 yuan but Li Ming as a valuable client. Having Li Ming as a connection meant a continuous flow of business, which was the most valuable and envied aspect. The housekeeper also showed a hint of envy as she said, Mr.
Li, please wait a moment. Zhao Huiya frowned slightly and said, Xiaoming, why are you getting a card?
You're already working hard for your money, there's no need for this. Li Ming explained, Auntie, Song Lin is my friend, and I'm helping out her business. Besides, we'll be coming here often, so having a card will be more convenient. Upon hearing this, Zhao Huiya nodded, alright then. We can come here more often to relax.
Li Yuqi added, include me too.
Zhao Huiya smiled, sure, we'll go together. The 3 of them chatted and laughed together. Song Lin stood nearby, her face slightly flushed, her gaze occasionally falling on Li Ming, her head shyly lowered. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Li Ming and the 2 women exited the private area, with the housekeeper and 6 top therapists accompanying them. Because it was Li Ming spending money, Zhao Huiya and the other woman gave him a lot of face, flanking him on either side.
Such a scene attracted everyone's attention as soon as they entered the public area.
This private hot spring was somewhat famous among the wealthy in Jiangcheng. On weekends, company executives and some rich second-generation individuals liked to bring friends and family here to relax. Wei Jin was informed today that a major client would visit the company for inspection on Monday. His direct superior, the vice president of the Jingfei Logistics Company, attached great importance to this. He was urgently notified to act as a driver, transporting the client and the vice president to Yichuan Xiaozhu. Although Wei Jin was unhappy about working overtime on the weekend, his expression and body language were honest.
He went to the airport with a smiling face to drive the vice president.
He had worked at Jingfei Logistics for 13 years and, with his experience, barely managed to secure the position of site manager in Jiangcheng. He had only seen the vice president from a distance at company events and had never spoken to him. Having the chance to make an impression on the vice president, Wei Jin was willing to work overtime or even all night, and he wouldn't mind doing anything for the vice president. This was his first visit to such a high-end private hot spring club. He learned that there were special private areas inside, and even money couldn't guarantee a reservation. As he looked up, he noticed a group of exquisitely beautiful women leaving the private area.
The 8 beauties, like stars surrounding the moon, were clustered around a man, chatting and laughing. Who was this guy? Acting so impressive.
Not only did he come out of the private area, but he also had a group of beauties around him.
One of them was actually the president of Zhixing Technology?
Wei Zhen cursed inwardly, thinking that people with power and influence really knew how to flaunt their privileges.
Just as he finished cursing in his mind, he recognized the man's face and said in disbelief, "He is Li Ming?"
Upon hearing this, the vice president beside him frowned and asked, "He seems to be of an exceptional status."
"Do you know him?"
Wei Zhen gasped. Not only did he know him, but he also had him on WeChat. He was planning to have Li Ming come to the park the next day to supervise the unloading of a 23-meter-long trailer.
Good heavens! The agency said Li Ming was just a poor bottom-level worker, who only worked as a temporary worker for their logistics and did some delivery work on the side?
The agency scoundrel actually dared to lie to him. Li Ming not only appeared in such a high-end place but also had access to privileged areas and was surrounded by a group of exceptional beauties. Can this person be called a poor bottom-level worker?
Li Ming was clearly a wealthy person enjoying life.
Wei Zhen took out his phone and snapped a picture. He needed to confirm with the park's team leader whether they had ever withheld or deducted Li Ming's wages. If any team leader had dared to withhold Li Ming's pay, they would be fired immediately and required to apologize. Since the president of Zhixing Technology was revolving around Li Ming was definitely not an ordinary person in Jiangchang.
If he accidentally offended such a big shot, he wouldn't even know how he died.
Wei Zhen had reached his current position by anticipating and avoiding risks. He planned to greet Li Ming, but seeing the vice president still engaged in conversation, he decided against it. He would need to chat with Li Ming properly when the opportunity arose and pretend not to notice his status, without appearing too eager to please. Li Ming seemed to be hiding his identity to experience life at the bottom level.
Revealing it would only make him unhappy.
After considering this, Wei Zhen took out his phone and messaged both the agency and his subordinate, Wei Chang.
Chapter 23, He's actually a delivery driver. Boom!
With the roar of the Porsche engine, Li Ming and his 2 companions sped along the national highway towards the center of Jiang City. Li Ming relaxed against the plush leather seat, the strong wind tousling his hair as he gazed at the rapidly retreating blue sky and white clouds. He felt completely at ease. Hot spring massages, luxury cars, beautiful women, and lavish spending. The life of the wealthy was indeed incredibly enjoyable.
Li Ming was once again deeply impressed by the allure of money.
His drive and motivation to earn more were now stronger than ever.
Xiao Ming, is the no. One technician really your friend? You don't have other intentions, do you?
Li Yuqi, sitting in the front passenger seat, turned to him with a suspicious look, while Zhao Huiya also listened intently. Seeing this, Li Ming couldn't help but laugh. It seemed the 2 women suspected that his intention to top up the card for Son Lin was not entirely pure. He explained, "She's a high school classmate of mine. I didn't expect to run into her here. She mentioned that her family had some trouble, which is why she ended up working as a technician at the hot spring.
Since we're from the same place, I thought I'd help a little if I could."
Upon hearing this, the 2 women exchanged glances.
Zhao Huiya asked, "Aren't you worried that she might be just tricking you into topping up the card?"
Li Ming was somewhat perplexed, not understanding why they were suddenly so concerned about this issue. With the settlement panel in place, Li Ming wasn't too worried about a small amount like this. He responded honestly, "I actually chose to get the card on my own initiative.
Whether she's deceiving me or not doesn't matter much.
Even if she's lying, I can still use the card.
If she's truthful, then it's even better if I can help her."
Zhao Huiya shook her head and smiled, "You're such a kind-hearted kid.
If she's deceiving you, you'd be at a disadvantage.
I checked with her boss. Her younger brother owes hundreds of thousands due to online loans and gambling and has attempted suicide several times. Her mother and she also practice gender bias, pushing her to earn money to repay the debt." Li Ming was taken aback, not expecting Zhao Huiya to have looked into it so thoroughly. The combination of gender bias, online loans, gambling, debt of hundreds of thousands, and rural background was overwhelming. Li Ming felt a bit suffocated.
Such families were not uncommon. Many young people, lured by advanced consumption and without proper guidance, ended up going astray.
Most of those deeply entrenched in the mire would become utterly hopeless after struggling for a year or 2, choosing to end their lives to escape the pain.
The death of one person only continues the pain for those still alive. Li Ming had witnessed a classmate from his year jump from the 5th floor, causing injuries to 2 students passing by the restroom. And the reason for the jump was also related to online loans. Song Lin's parents were merely trying to save their son's life and preserve a legacy for the Song family, while the one sacrificed was naturally the older sister, Song Lin. Li Ming sighed, no wonder she didn't want to talk about it. Such matters are indeed hard to speak of. Li Yuqi remained silent, realizing that Zhao Hui's concern was not just about the potential scam but also about whether Li Ming had any feelings for Song Lin. Zhao Hui's growing interest in Li Ming made Li Yuqi anxious about what would happen if Zhao Zinan returned and confessed to Li Ming. The thought made her head ache. She muttered, Hui, why the sudden concern about these matters? Zhao Huiye responded gently, I don't want to see my own child being deceived. Li Ming smiled and said, Auntie is really considerate. Zhao Huiye chuckled, Auntie doesn't want you to suffer a loss. Li Yuqi sighed, An hour later. In Jiang City, in the Yujiang district, the red Porsche stopped beneath a residential building in Huamia community. Zhao Huiye said, Xiaoming, rest well for the next couple of days, and come to the company on Monday. Li Ming nodded and watched as the 2 women left. He went back to his room. It was now 4 p.m. And he planned to visit his father at the hospital first and then find time to do some part-time work to gain experience. Buzz. Yang Yu calling? Li Ming raised his eyebrows, suddenly having a bad premonition. He answered the call. On the other end, Yang Yu's calm voice said, Li Ming's family, we have the results of the tests and evaluations for your father. Half an hour later, at Jiang City People's Hospital. In the inpatient department, on the 12th floor, in a level 1 nursing room, Li Ming held the evaluation results with a somber expression. Yang Yu stood before Li Ming with a serious look. She said slowly, Li Ming, after a series of detailed examinations and evaluations, it's confirmed that your father has entered a vegetative state. Li Ming glanced at the middle-aged man lying in bed, his face ruddy but eyes closed, and was momentarily at a loss for words. His father had not woken up for a whole week since the surgery. Just when he had money and planned to let his father enjoy a comfortable life after years of hard work, his father had become a vegetative state. Even though he had prepared himself, he still found it hard to accept the result when it came. Is there still a possibility of him waking up? Li Ming asked. Yang Yu continued in a calm and professional tone, although your father's vital signs are relatively stable, his consciousness and perception of the external environment are almost completely lost. The chance of him waking up is very slim. Li Ming asked with a furrowed brow, Dr. Yang, are there any cutting-edge technologies that might help him wake up? Or any ways to assist him in waking up sooner? Yang Yu looked surprised and raised her head to look at Li Ming. It was the first time someone had asked her such a question. After thinking for a moment, she said, technologies like nerve regeneration, brain-machine interfaces, advanced neural stimulation, and artificial intelligence assistance might help vegetative patients awaken directly or indirectly. However, these technologies are still immature, and having money doesn't necessarily solve the problem. Currently, they are basically unavailable. Li Ming asked, so there might be a possibility in the future, right? Yang Yu agreed, yes, you could say that. Li Ming sighed with relief, all right, as long as there is hope. Can you contact experts in these fields? Is there anything else I need to do? Yang Yu thought for a moment and said, I'm not sure at the moment, but I'll keep an eye out for you. The important thing now is how you plan to take care of your father. Li Ming said directly, let's continue the care in the hospital. He was very satisfied with the care and medical services provided by the hospital in these days. Moreover, with experts like Yang Yu available, he could get solutions to problems anytime. Yang Yu said, long-term bed rest may lead to many complications, such as pressure sores, lung infections, urinary system infections, etc. These need daily care and monitoring, which is a heavy and complex task. Body care, nutritional support, and special treatments require a significant amount of money and daily expenditure, so the cost of your father's care is quite high. Li Ming asked, how much would it cost per day for the best medication and the most comprehensive care service? Yang Yu thought for a moment and said, if everything is done with the best, the average cost is around 6,000 a day. 6,000 per day. In addition to this, he needed to prepare a large sum of money. If technologies like brain-machine interfaces and neural stimulation matured and proved to help his father wake up, he would immediately use these advanced technologies. To enjoy cutting-edge technology, one must first have enough wealth. The maintenance, observation, or handling of accidents after using such technology also requires a huge amount of money.
Furthermore, having money doesn't necessarily guarantee access to these high-tech advancements, so millions, tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions are far from enough.
Li Ming took a deep breath and asked, "Alright, how do I proceed with the relevant procedures?"
Yang Yu, with a complex expression, called a nurse and guided Li Ming to handle the procedures.
An hour later, under the watchful eyes of Yang Yu and several doctors and nurses, Li Ming deposited 2 million yuan into the hospital account without hesitation.
Yang Yu frowned and said, "There's no need to deposit so much at once."
"There's no rush."
Li Ming shook his head and said, "I want the best care and the best medication.
Just give me the treatment list."
She was somewhat shocked, never having seen someone deposit such a large amount into the hospital account, and even worried it might not be enough. Depositing 2 million at once. Most people usually settle outstanding fees first and then gradually repay the money, but Li Ming was the opposite. Ever since Li Ming paid off the debt in full and topped up 50,000, she had been paying attention to him. She noticed Li Ming was genuinely ordinary in appearance, riding a small electric scooter back and forth daily, not looking like a wealthy person at all. Yet, when it came to spending on his father's medical treatment, he spent tens of millions at a time. In her years of experience, she had seen many patients' families, and there were plenty of rich people who didn't treat their parents. Most of those with vegetative states or terminal illnesses would choose to bring them home to fulfill their filial piety. In other words, they went home to wait for death, with no solutions, the reality being both harsh and cruel. But Li Ming was different. He had no intention of giving up on his father's treatment due to debt or loans. Although he had earned money now, he was using all of it to treat his father.
Li Ming was truly filial and very unique.
Yang Yu was curious about how wealthy Li Ming actually was.
Of course, she wouldn't directly ask such questions. After handling Li Ming's affairs, she quickly moved on to other tasks. Money was still far from enough.
Li Ming approached his father's bedside, continuing to move his father's joints, massage him, and gently turn him. Care one time, plus 200 yuan, plus 10 experience.
Level, LV3, 754,000. Dad, your son is doing well now, earning a lot of money. Please wake up soon. You can enjoy meat and wine every day. Whatever cigarettes you want, I'll buy for you.
I've agreed to find you a stepmother, and I'll buy you a car and a house. Li Ming spoke softly, spending half an hour chatting by the bedside. He glanced at the time, it was exactly 5 p.m. and the evening rush hour for deliveries was starting. Dad, the company has a few projects about to start, and I estimate I'll make a large sum again.
Let's chat today, I need to go to a meeting now.
Li Ming didn't plan to tell anyone about the panel settlement and used another excuse to explain. As he finished speaking, he noticed Yang Yu and another female doctor, who seemed to be named Wang, standing by the door. Wang appeared to be around Yang Yu's age, in her late 30s, with a constantly smiling face and a fuller figure compared to Yang Yu. Seeing Li Ming, she smiled and nodded at him, while Yang Yu remained stern and said, "It's also helpful for you to come and talk to him every day. He can hear you."
Li Ming nodded, "Alright, I'll come every day."
Yang Yu said, "Good.
Then you go ahead and do what you need to. I won't disturb you."
With that, she turned to the other bed to check on the condition of 2 other vegetative patients. Li Ming gently exited the ward.
Dr.
Wang Lijuan looked back at Li Ming's disappearing figure and said quietly, "Li Ming is not only filial but also young and wealthy. Even at this hour, when people are leaving work, he still has to go back to the company for a meeting. His style is quite similar to yours.
Have you considered it?"
Yang Yu was used to Wang Lijuan's teasing and replied indifferently, "His wealth and youth have nothing to do with me."
Wang Lijuan smiled and said, "I'm curious about what he does. Spending 2 million is like spending a few cents to him.
You should interact with him more and ask if he has a girlfriend. I've been divorced for a long time and suddenly want to date a younger, wealthy, and cultured man."
Yang Yu gave Wang Lijuan a sideways glance and said, "Do you think someone young and wealthy would be interested in you?"
Wang Lijuan huffed, "Some young people actually like divorced women like us because we understand more." Yang Yu said, "Next time, you ask him yourself."
Wang Lijuan, used to Yang Yu's straightforwardness, said softly, "But you have his WeChat. Can you introduce me?"
Yang Yu shook her head and said, "I can't just make introductions.
You should add him yourself."
Wang Lijuan, feeling a bit frustrated, said, "No wonder you've been single for over 30 years.
Fine, I'll add him on my own."
Outside the hospital, Li Ming got on his small electric scooter and opened the delivery platform. He would start working at Jixing Technology Company on Monday. Once there, he would have the opportunity to engage in those lucrative projects in new fields, gaining more experience and money. For now, he could only gain experience through part-time work. You have a new order, please process it as soon as possible. Li Ming skillfully opened the delivery platform and was surprised to see the address: Inpatient Department Office, 12th floor, Yujian District People's Hospital, Dr.
Wang. Wasn't that Yang Yu's office? Li Ming didn't think much of it.
Making money was the primary goal, and whose delivery it was didn't matter.
In the inpatient department office. After sending a friend request, Wang Lijuan rested her chin on her hand and looked at the busy Yang Yu, asking, Sister Yu, what should I say as my first message after adding him? Yang Yu, focused on updating patient records, responded absent-mindedly, anything is fine. Wang Lijuan smiled and said, maybe talk about how his father is doing? It might be too abrupt to talk about other things right away. Gradually bring up other topics. Knock knock. At that moment, the office door was knocked. Hello, the delivery is here. Wang Lijuan stood up and said, Li Ming hasn't accepted my friend request yet, but the delivery arrived quickly. This delivery guy is quite fast. She ran over to open the door and saw Li Ming holding a container of braised ribs. She was momentarily stunned, her expression shifting from surprise to confusion and shock. Li Ming smiled and said, Hello, you're the one with the tail number 2321, right? Wang Lijuan instinctively nodded and said, yes. She took the braised ribs and watched Li Ming's departing figure, still in disbelief. Yang Yu looked up in confusion and asked, What are you standing there for? Wang Lijuan turned around, incredulously saying, I can't believe Li Ming is actually a delivery driver. Chapter 24, Yang Yu invites for dinner. A delivery driver couldn't possibly have 2 million. Wang Lijuan asserted firmly. Upon hearing this, Yang Yu's eyes flickered with surprise. She replied with curiosity, maybe it's just his side job? Wang Lijuan had a sudden realization that must be it. He's probably just trying out life experiences. It's quite playful of him. If we hadn't seen him take out 2 million ourselves, we'd have thought he was just a delivery driver. Role-playing, I think I know how to pursue him now. Wang Lijuan twirled a strand of her hair, revealing a confident smile. Yang Yu looked astonished. Are you serious? Wang Lijuan said, Why not? I'm not in bad shape myself. My child doesn't live with me. Plus, I have a stable job, a high education level, and decent looks. I'm a good match for him. Yang Yu was at a loss for words, nearly saying, Good luck with that. Wang Lijuan laughed. Sister Yu, you don't understand men. They won't turn away a woman who throws herself at them. If the woman is attractive, playful, caring, and fulfills their desires, they can't resist. Especially young men full of vigor, they just can't hold back. Besides, I don't need any formal recognition from him or for him to take responsibility. I just want to be his lover and spend his money. Why would he refuse? Yang Yu didn't argue. She was surprised to see this side of Wang Lijuan. Seeing Yang Yu's astonished expression, Wang Lijuan smiled and said, Sister Yu, life is short, just over 30,000 days. Once you've lived enough, you'll realize that those so-called major life events don't really matter. The only meaning is to be happy yourself. Chase what you like boldly, or else no matter how good or how much you like something, it won't have any relation to you. If you like something, grab it. If you don't get it, you won't lose anything. If you do, it's yours. With that, Wang Lijuan gave a charming smile and began to eat. Yang Yu, who was working, was stunned by her words. She suddenly said, What if he really is just a delivery driver? Wang Lijuan nodded. You've reminded me. I need to find out if Li Ming is actually a hidden rich second generation. After leaving the hospital, Li Ming looked at his phone with some confusion. Dr. Wang Lijuan? Li Ming didn't think much of it. He accepted the request, thinking that if Yang Yu was resting, it would be a good chance to catch up with her. During the evening rush hour, there were many orders. Since Li Ming was doing crowdsourced delivery, the delivery distances were generally longer. At 7 o'clock, he quickly ate a portion of pig's trotter's rice and then went back to work. At midnight, Li Ming received another order from the People's Hospital. It was for the hospital's security guard who had ordered dinner. After delivering the meal and clicking delivered, Li Ming closed the delivery app and parked his scooter. Delivery 26 orders, plus 156 yuan, plus 130 experience. Level, LV3, 884,000.
Over 1,000 yuan was a decent income, but Li Ming was more concerned about the experience points. In his free time over the past few days, Li Ming had been exploring ways to gain experience. He discovered that completing tasks he hadn't done before awarded him a large amount of experience the first time. Subsequently, as he repeated the same task, the experience points awarded would decrease. The exact amount of decrease he hadn't figured out yet. The only thing he knew for sure was that once he became quite skilled at a task, repeating it would only earn him plus 5 experience points. This was true for both delivery and unloading goods, with the only difference being the reward in strength points earned. Li Ming parked his scooter and thought, I need to find some new part-time work.
Li Ming.
At that moment, a familiar voice called out from behind. Li Ming turned in surprise. He saw a woman walking over in a black, fitted dress, with mid-heel leather shoes, and her black hair cascading over her shoulders. Though slightly tired, her eyes were sharp and bright. She wore pearl earrings and carried a black handbag. Even though it was after work, she still exuded a professional, confident, and composed demeanor.
Dr. Yang Yu?
Li Ming asked, somewhat uncertain. He had never seen Yang Yu in casual clothes before and didn't recognize her immediately.
Yang Yu remained expressionless and asked, You're delivering food at this hour?
Li Ming realized that Yang Yu must have been present when he delivered food to Wang Lijuan.
Li Ming smiled and said, I just can't sit still. I always want to find something to do.
Why are you off work so late?
Can't sit still? Yang Yu was intrigued. The delivery work must be Li Ming's side job.
She replied calmly, I had some unfinished work.
Li Ming remarked, You're quite dedicated. You work until your tasks are done.
Yang Yu looked at Li Ming, who was the first to show such concern for her. Seeing Yang Yu's puzzled expression and the lack of conversation from her, Li Ming chuckled awkwardly. Yang Yu's personality seemed rather difficult to get along with. If it were Zhao Huiya, they would have been chatting excitedly by now.
Li Ming glanced at her and said, If there's nothing else, I'll be on my way. Goodbye, Dr. Yang. Yang Yu asked, Have you eaten? Li Ming replied, I had something at 7. Yang Yu nodded and asked, Just one meal? What did you eat? Are you hungry now?
Ha? Li Ming was a bit confused by her question. Yang Yu's words seemed to be caring, but they came off as quite awkward, making Li Ming feel like he was being examined by a doctor. Yang Yu seemed to realize her tone was off and awkwardly explained, I meant to invite you to dinner. Li Ming was puzzled.
Dr. Yang, is there something you need to talk to me about? Yang Yu shook her head. No, I just want to get to know you better. If it's inconvenient now, we can do it another time. Get to know me better?
Li Ming suddenly felt as if he were on a blind date.
He really couldn't figure out the meaning behind Yang Yu's sudden invitation for dinner. Chapter 25, Enthusiastic Weijin. Half an hour later. Li Ming left the hospital and boarded the subway. At Chiwai Station, exit B.
As soon as Li Ming emerged from the escalator, he saw the agent in a white shirt and dress pants, beaming with a smile.
Li Ming, you're really punctual. Let's go. Li Ming nodded and got into the agent's Wuling Hongwan van.
The agent smiled and said, Li Ming, every time there's money to be made, you're the first person I think of. You know, loading and unloading isn't something just anyone can handle. After checking around, I found that you're the best. Your strength and physical condition easily surpass a lot of the elderly and weak.
Li Ming smiled silently. He knew the agent's words were just flattery.
The loading and unloading jobs were tough, dangerous, and poorly paid. The logistics company couldn't keep people because the pay was insufficient, so they constantly needed temporary workers. The agent clearly valued Li Ming's ability to handle the workload of 5 people and saw him as a valuable asset, which was why he reached out to him first. Of course, another reason was that Li Ming was the only one willing to take the job, while others would shake their heads at the offer. Seeing that Li Ming didn't respond, the agent cheerfully said, Li Ming, I have some good news for you today.
Li Ming asked curiously, What's the good news?
The agent proudly said, Through my efforts, I managed to get you 1,600 yuan per truck. The logistics company originally refused to increase the pay, thinking you're easy to push around.
I got really angry and told them if they didn't raise the pay, I wouldn't contact you again. After much negotiation, their finance department finally agreed.
Li Ming didn't believe a word of it. But to maintain a channel for gaining experience in the future, Li Ming chose not to expose him on the spot. He replied calmly, "Thank you."
Li Ming's cool attitude didn't dampen the agent's enthusiasm.
He continued to praise Li Ming's strength and how he could handle multiple people at once, assuring him that working with him would guarantee earnings. When Li Ming promised to come often, the agent's smile grew even wider. The agent didn't understand why Wei Jin, the on-site manager of Qingyuan Logistics Park, had raised the price from 1,800 to 2,500 per truck after learning that Li Ming would be coming. He thought, it couldn't possibly be just for Li Ming that the price was raised on the spot. In his 3 years of experience, he had only seen a price increase once. The only possible explanation was that there were no one else willing to take the loading jobs, and without raising the price, they wouldn't be able to get the work done. At Qingyuan Logistics Park. As the Wuling van arrived at the park's entrance, the agent saw Wei Jin, the general manager, standing at the gate, seemingly waiting for something. Normally, he would be in his office, only seen a few times a week. Why was he suddenly at the warehouse entrance today? The agent was puzzled. Li Ming also recognized Wei Jin. He had some impression of him, probably from adding him on WeChat last time. The agent and Li Ming walked over together. The agent greeted enthusiastically, "General Manager Wei. What are you doing here?" Wei Jin glanced at the agent with a perfunctory nod and then looked at Li Ming, his serious face softening into a warm smile. He said in surprise, "It's you, young man. Are you here to work as a temp again today?" Seeing Wei Jin's attitude, the agent was dumbfounded. Wasn't it already discussed that Li Ming was coming as a temp? Wei Jin clearly knew this but pretended to be surprised and was warmly greeting Li Ming. What kind of act was this? Li Ming raised an eyebrow, finding Wei Jin's enthusiasm a bit unusual. He had worked here before, and usually, administrative managers like Wei Jin wouldn't even acknowledge temp workers, let alone greet them. Li Ming politely said, "Yes, I heard there was work available, so I came." Wei Jin realized his enthusiasm might have been excessive. He regained his serious demeanor and said to the agent, "With 5:20 approaching, the workload has increased significantly. This young man unloaded a whole trailer by himself last time, which left a deep impression on me. From now on, if you're looking for workers, look for people with his standards." Hearing this, the agent's smile instantly froze. General Manager Wei, it's impossible to find someone who meets Li Ming's standards. Over the years, he's the only exceptional one I've seen. Wei Jin sighed, "I see." He looked at Li Ming again with an appreciative gaze and said, "It seems this young man is really outstanding." Li Ming asked meaningfully, "General Manager Wei, do you know me?" Wei Jin laughed heartily, I didn't know you before, but I do now." "No more talk, we have 4 trailers left to unload. Let's get to work." To the agent's bewilderment, Wei Jin actually put on a reflective vest and went to unload goods with Li Ming. The on-site team leader, Wei Chang, was also stunned. Since Wei Jin became the general manager, he hadn't seen him do such work. He had seen Li Ming's extraordinary unloading speed and strength before. But no matter how exceptional Li Ming was, he was just a temp. Did Wei Jin really need to go this far? Chapter 26, Born to be Strong. General Wei. The admin department says there's a meeting at 11 o'clock that requires your chairmanship, Wei Chang said at the back of the trailer, addressing the sweating Wei Jin. Wei Jin didn't respond immediately. He was watching Li Ming, who was effortlessly lifting a Michelin truck tire, with a look of astonishment. Upon closer inspection, he noticed it was a -18 PR model, weighing 77 kilograms. Li Ming was handling the tire as if it were a stool, lifting it with ease and placing it on the conveyor belt. Taking a deep breath, Wei Jin finally came back to his senses and said to Wei Chang, "Postpone the meeting to tomorrow. You go ahead and handle things." Wei Chang hesitated for a moment, giving Li Ming and the nearly empty trailer a long look before leaving with a bit of dissatisfaction. In just 4 hours, Li Ming was about to finish unloading the second trailer. Wei Jin wondered if this was why he insisted on staying to help Li Ming. Wei Jin wiped his forehead and asked in disbelief, "Brother, aren't you tired?" Li Ming smiled, "Brother Wei, I'm fine. You should rest a bit longer." Li Ming found it strange how enthusiastic Wei Jin was. Despite being the general manager of a park with thousands of employees and being in his 40s, Wei Jin insisted on being called brother. Wei Jin marveled, "Brother, is your strength innate?" Li Ming chuckled, "I'm from a rural area. I've been doing heavy labor since I was young. After doing it for more than a decade, I've built up my strength." From a rural area? Hearing this, Wei Jin chose to ignore it. He had seen Li Ming surrounded by beautiful women, with the president of Jixing Technology accompanying him.
Li Ming could even access special areas in high-end places like Yuan Villa. There's no way he's from a rural background. Wei Jin agreed, I see. I thought you were born with supernatural strength. Just then, Wei Jin's phone rang. He glanced at it and quickly answered, President, I'm unloading cargo. On the other end of the line, what are you unloading? A general manager shouldn't be doing this. Are you out of your mind?
This afternoon, you need to accompany a client for dinner.
Get ready. Also, why wasn't the meeting held today? Post an explanation in the company group. Beep beep beep. Wei Jin frowned. He was supposed to write an explanation?
He couldn't possibly say he was there to socialize with Li Ming and specifically came to the site to assist him. After much thought, Wei Jin carefully drafted an explanation from different angles about Li Ming's sudden appearance at the site as a temp worker and sent it to the vice president.
The young man who was accompanied by the president of Jixing Technology? We happen to have a project to discuss with Jixing Technology. Since he's experiencing life at the site, you might as well try to invite him to dinner. Seeing this message, Wei Jin sighed in relief. Fortunately, he was smart. Otherwise, he would not only have to explain why the meeting wasn't held but also risk leaving a bad impression on the vice president. Now that the vice president wanted him to try inviting Li Ming to dinner, he could please both sides. Wei Jin smiled, thinking that his success over the years came from his sharp eye for talent and quick response to unexpected situations. Brother Wei, let's move on to the next truck, Li Ming's voice broke his thoughts. Wei Jin looked back at the empty trailer and couldn't help but show a hint of shock on his weathered face. This was truly a born powerhouse. If he didn't know Li Ming had another identity, he would definitely invest money to win him over and make him a loyal follower. At 1 p.m. in the rest area of Warehouse 1 at Qingwan Logistics Park. Li Ming, drenched in sweat, and Wei Jin sat eating boxed lunches due to exhaustion. Wei Jin couldn't eat a bite. He watched Li Ming devour his third boxed lunch and couldn't help but comment, youth is wonderful. Li Ming laughed, I'm not that young anymore, I'm 20. Wei Jin said, brother, after working alongside you for a while, I realize there are people beyond expectations. Since we've met like old friends, I'm inviting you to dinner tonight with our company's leaders and a major client. I want to introduce you to them. Li Ming looked up in surprise. Introducing him to the company's top leaders and major clients? Wei Jin smiled, brother, I think you're a talent. You deserve a better platform and more space to showcase your abilities. It would be a pity if you only worked as a temp. Li Ming was genuinely taken aback by this sudden kindness. Normally, he would definitely go because he needed a bigger platform to engage in new fields and quickly gain experience, but with Yang Yu wanting to discuss brain-machine interfaces with him today, which concerned his father's future, he couldn't afford to miss it. Li Ming apologized, thank you for your appreciation, brother Wei. I have an appointment this afternoon. If there's an opportunity, let's reschedule. This was the second time Wei Jin had been rejected by Li Ming, and a hint of regret appeared in his eyes. However, this was expected. A wealthy second generation like Li Ming, who was merely experiencing life, would unlikely mingle with lower-tier people. Wei Jin wasn't anxious. He added Li Ming on WeChat and chatted pleasantly with him. There would always be opportunities to invite Li Ming in the future. This time, it was the company that wanted to invite Li Ming, not him personally. After weighing the pros and cons, Wei Jin smiled, no rush. We'll get together another time. If you have any difficulties, feel free to come to me. Consider me your big brother. Li Ming nodded, alright, thank you, brother Wei. Wei Jin replied cheerfully, we're brothers. There's no need for thanks. In the corridor, the agent overheard their conversation with a strange expression. He suddenly realized that Wei Jin seemed to be flattering Li Ming. Wasn't Li Ming just a born powerhouse? People like him were destined to be exploited and used by others. What was there to flatter about? At 2 p.m. After a satisfying meal, Li Ming checked his panel with a slightly cold expression. Unloaded 3 trucks, plus 7,500 yuan, strength plus 90, experience plus 300. Food delivery 26 orders, plus 156 yuan, plus 130 experience. Nursing 1 time, plus 200 yuan, plus 20 experience. Level, LV3, 1334,000. He had only received 1,600 yuan from the agent. Chapter 27, Intense Gaze. What's wrong?
Li Ming replied with a wry smile, Auntie, Dr. Yang Yu also scheduled to meet with me today to discuss my dad's situation.
Zhao Huiya was taken aback.
She raised her hand to brush the stray hair from her forehead and said apologetically, It was my oversight.
I thought you had nothing scheduled this afternoon.
Your father's matters are most important. You should go see Dr.
Yang first.
Li Ming said with feeling, Auntie, you're really understanding. Zhao Huiya looked at Li Ming and smiled lightly, You're good at providing emotional value. Li Ming responded earnestly, Auntie, I'm just speaking the truth.
Zhao Huiya shook her head with a smile, observing the Bentley flying spur ahead. She remarked in surprise, Wuji Pavilion is quite popular.
I didn't expect Wei Jin and the others would come here from another district for a meal.
Zhao Huiya knows Wei Jin?
Zhao Huiya continued, I saw him at Iya Spring yesterday, and now he's here again.
The world is indeed small. At this moment, Wei Jin showed a hint of surprise, then smiled and nodded at Li Ming and Zhao Huiya before driving in. Li Ming was surprised, he was also at Iya Spring yesterday? Zhao Huiya nodded, yes.
Their company has a project they want to collaborate on with us, but we haven't agreed yet. Hearing this, Li Ming's eyes shifted slightly. No wonder Wei Jin had been so overly friendly today, his intention to build connections was very clear. It seemed that Wei Jin had seen him with Zhao Huiya and wanted to make a connection with him.
With this in mind, Li Ming said meaningfully, it really is a coincidence.
Zhao Huiya didn't think much of it and said to Li Ming, You've met the new members of the Li Shi marketing team.
If you're too busy tonight, you can chat with them tomorrow. I've met them too? Li Ming asked in surprise.
He tried to recall but couldn't remember who they were. As they spoke, the car slowly drove into Wuji Pavilion. Li Ming looked up and saw Yang Yu and Wang Lijuan standing at the entrance, with Wang Lijuan's outfit being particularly eye-catching. She wore a tight black mini skirt that hugged her curvaceous figure, and the skirt perfectly showcased her long, fair legs. Her top was a low-cut lace blouse that subtly revealed her ample cleavage, with bright red lipstick adding a touch of sensuality. Her alluring eyes, filled with curiosity, met Li Ming's as he arrived in the Porsche. She exchanged a look with Yang Yu, her smile becoming even brighter, while Yang Yu looked a bit surprised.
As soon as the car stopped, Wang Lijuan and Yang Yu walked over.
Zhao Huiya furrowed her brows slightly and noticed Wang Lijuan immediately. From her attire, it was clear she wasn't here for serious business.
Li Ming.
Over here. Wang Lijuan called out warmly, her black lace dress fluttering as she waved.
Standing next to Yang Yu and wearing high heels, Wang Lijuan looked elegant and graceful.
Li Ming, feeling helpless, smiled and said, Dr. Yang, Dr.
Wang, you didn't have to wait at the door. Yang Yu didn't say anything.
Wang Lijuan's gaze shifted to Zhao Huiya, and with curiosity, she asked, Li Ming, who is this?
I'm the driver, Zhao Huiya answered quickly.
Li Ming looked at her in surprise, but she only responded with a professional smile, her eyes showing a hint of cunning.
Upon hearing this, Wang Lijuan's expression shifted from confusion to delight.
Her purpose for coming today was clear, she wanted to make a good impression on Li Ming.
Zhao Huiya added, Boss, you go ahead.
Li Ming looked at Zhao Huiya in surprise, but she only smiled slightly and turned to walk through the door.
What's this about?
It's really hard to guess this woman's intentions.
Let's go in, Yang Yu said.
Li Ming, not wanting to delve into the thoughts of the women, was focused on discussing the brain-machine interface with Yang Yu. He followed the two women into the restaurant, where Wang Lijuan subtly leaned closer, a faint fragrance wafting through the air. Li Ming's family member, I didn't expect you to be so young and already driving a luxury car with a beautiful driver, Wang Lijuan began, but as she was stepping over the threshold, her high heel twisted, causing her to fall toward Li Ming. He instinctively stepped back, but she almost fell, her face nearly hitting the ground. Li Ming reflexively reached out to catch Wang Lijuan. The timing was perfect, and he managed to stabilize her. Ah, Li Ming was startled and released his grip.
Due to the momentum, Wang Lijuan fell to her knees in front of Li Ming.
The scene of a young woman kneeling down caused everyone, including the waiter and customers in the restaurant, as well as Wei Jin, to stare in shock.
Ah, Dr. Wang.
This. The familiar move and scene made even Li Ming, who was used to various situations, feel embarrassed. He grabbed Wang Lijuan's arm and helped her up. Her face showed a mix of apology and desire, with a lingering, intense gaze. Her face flushed red, her breathing visibly rising and falling. She said awkwardly, I'm so sorry. It's been a long time since I wore high heels.
Are you okay?
Li Ming looked down and saw a bright lipstick mark on his leg.
Ah. I'm really sorry.
I didn't mean to, Wang Lijuan said hurriedly, trying to wipe off the lipstick mark, causing Li Ming to step back repeatedly. Yang Yu watched with shock, a trace of admiration in her eyes.
Such a cliched move was executed with such finesse by Wang Lijuan.
She realized she had underestimated her colleague's skills.
If Wang Lijuan could pull off such a stunt in a public place, what could she do in private?
Standing at the entrance, Zhao Huiya, who had been waiting to observe, looked on with a stiff expression. Li Ming was also astonished.
Wang Lijuan's actions had completely exceeded his expectations.
Had he not instinctively stepped back, he would have been hit. Such enthusiasm made Li Ming somewhat nervous.
I'm really sorry, Wang Lijuan said, holding Li Ming's hand and continuously apologizing.
Li Ming withdrew his hand, took a deep breath, and said, I'm fine, Dr.
Wang. Let's hurry inside. With the waiter's guidance, they went to table 9.
Yang Yu sat on the other side, with 2 women's bags and a jacket beside her.
Li Ming, let's sit over here, Wang Lijuan said with a smile.
Okay. Li Ming didn't refuse. As soon as he sat down, Wang Lijuan adjusted her skirt and sat next to him, her movements causing her to brush against the edge of his clothes. She quickly set up the chopsticks and bowl, washing them with hot tea, and leaned slightly forward, her deep neckline revealing more of her bosom.
With a seductive smile and her eyes moving suggestively, she softly asked, Li Ming, would you like Auntie to clean your pants?
Li Ming turned his head and met her gaze. Her eyes were filled with heat, passion, intensity, and an unabashed desire. Chapter 28, The Company of Musk. The two locked eyes, with Li Ming not looking away. One gaze was passionate and intense, the other calm.
He wondered what kind of woman Dr. Wang was behind closed doors. To be so openly seductive towards him. Let Auntie help you with your pants. Auntie? By age, Wang Lijuan, at 33, would indeed be considered an auntie. Moreover, this phrase sounded familiar to Li Ming, as he had said something similar to Zhao Huiya. Ahem, let's order, Yang Yu's awkward cough interrupted.
Li Ming then noticed the waiter standing by with an electronic menu, hesitating whether to leave or stay.
Li Ming politely declined, no need, Dr. Wang. Let's order.
Wang Lijuan nodded, retracting her seductive gaze and said, Don't be so formal with me, just call me Auntie Wang. Auntie noticed you have some dark circles, take care of your health. I'll order the abalone black chicken, a specialty of this place.
Li Ming.
She elegantly took the waiter's menu and pointed to a picture. This dish uses Japanese net abalone, which is quite large and considered a top-grade delicacy. Each one costs around 10 to 20,000. Hearing her speak so boldly, Li Ming watched Wang Lijuan in silence. Wang Lijuan pointed to the black chicken on the menu and introduced it with a smile. Li Ming, this chicken is called I am Semini, also known as the Lamborghini chicken. This chicken is black from the inside out, from head to toe, including its eyes, beak, tongue, and internal organs. Even its blood is black, not red. I'll only order this dish, you all can choose the rest.
Li Ming smiled. She was indeed an interesting woman.
He took the menu and said calmly, All right, thank you, Auntie Wang.
Hearing the term auntie, Wang Lijuan's smile became even more alluring.
With her peach blossom eyes, slightly flushed lips, and rosy cheeks. Her charm seemed innate, with a hint of fiery allure in her watery gaze. Li Ming's gaze eventually faltered and fell to the menu.
After all, which man could remain indifferent when faced with such naturally seductive advances from a mature woman?
Li Ming said nothing further and ordered a steak, then handed the menu to Yang Yu. He, of course, didn't forget the purpose of this meal, to discuss the brain-machine interface. Beautiful and enticing flowers are often thorny, especially someone like Wang Lijuan.
Wang Lijuan suddenly spoke softly, Li Ming, I heard you want to learn about brain-machine interfaces? Li Ming nodded in surprise, yes, Auntie Wang.
Yang Yu pointed at Wang Lijuan and said solemnly, Li Ming, currently, various countries are researching brain-machine interfaces. The most influential company is Neuralink, founded by Elon Musk. His company is dedicated to developing devices that can be implanted in the human brain to translate human thoughts into actions through computers. It's one of the research areas that may eventually apply brain-machine interfaces in the medical field, such as for paralysis and vegetative states.
On January 29, 2024, his Neuralink team received FDA approval for their first human clinical trial.
In September of the same year, the Neuralink team announced plans to conduct the first human trials and officially opened recruitment for clinical trial patients.
Li Ming knew about Elon Musk. He was a man devoted to human colonization of Mars. With Starlink, SpaceX, Tesla, bionic robots, and his influence in AI worldwide. Why was Yan Yu suddenly talking about this? Li Ming asked in confusion, "Do you know Musk?" After asking, he felt it was unlikely. Compared to someone like Musk, who was dedicated to the future of humanity, they were just struggling individuals at the bottom. Yan Yu, being just a doctor from a second-tier city in the Dragon Country, couldn't possibly know Musk. Yang Yu coldly told a joke, "I know him, but he doesn't know me." Then she continued, "Auntie Wang knows people from Neuralink, she used to study in the US. Today, I'm introducing Dr. Wang to you. If you want to know more about brain-machine interfaces and their progress in the future, you can ask her directly. Her information will be more objective and comprehensive than what you find online." After Yang Yu finished speaking, she began ordering food and didn't look at the two anymore. Li Ming turned to see Wang Lijuan looking at him with a smile. Her gaze made him feel uneasy. It was clear that Wang Lijuan's intentions were directed at him, and she made no attempt to hide it. What was this? Offering herself to save his father? Li Ming hadn't expected Wang Lijuan to have such strength and connections. To know people from Neuralink. Wang Lijuan smiled seductively. "Li Ming, Auntie knows you're anxious, but this matter can't be rushed. If you have any questions about brain-machine interfaces, feel free to ask me anytime." Li Ming sighed inwardly. It seemed only mature women had such power. He kept his smile and said, "Auntie Wang, I didn't expect you to know people from Neuralink." Wang Lijuan's expression became serious. "Li Ming, you don't need to worry too much about your father's situation. My friend mentioned that brain-machine interfaces are likely to become widespread within the next 5 years. There will also be progress in their application to vegetative states, so there's still hope. When Sister Yu told me about this matter, it was rather sudden, and I didn't have time to contact that friend after tonight. I will reach out to him and provide you with the relevant information as soon as possible." Hearing this, Li Ming felt relieved. At least this matter had a beginning and some clarity. As for Wang Lijuan, he wasn't familiar with her and didn't hold any ill will. He just felt her approach was too direct and enthusiastic, which was a bit hard for him to adjust to. However, for his father's sake, he couldn't be too resistant to Wang Lijuan's enthusiasm. Li Ming lifted his tea and sincerely said, "Thank you, Auntie Wang." Wang Lijuan also raised her cup and said charmingly, "It's nothing. Auntie feels a connection with you and genuinely wants to help. I usually enjoy a bit of whiskey and a tipsy state." Chapter 29, Zhao Hui's Power. Wang Zhenhui. Li Ming recalled carefully. His major in the first year of college was trade economics, and he had taken related logistics courses. Wang Zhenhui was one of the founding figures of Jingtong Group, the man who established Jingtong Logistics and helped it stand out among its competitors. Li Ming remembered that in 2023, Jingtong Group was ranked around 46th in the world, among the top 50 global enterprises. As one of the founding members and the creator of the powerful Jingtong Logistics, Wang Zhenhui's wealth and status were self-evident. People outside the logistics industry might not know Wang Zhenhui, but he was undoubtedly a hidden big shot. No wonder Wei Zhen was so nervous in his presence. After greeting Li Ming, Wang Zhenhui said, "Little brother, I'll be in Jiangcheng for a while. You can visit me at the Qingwan Logistics Park when you have time. Here's my business card." Li Ming took the card and politely smiled. "All right, thank you, Mr. Wang." Wang Zhenhui gave his personal card to Li Ming? Wei Zhen's eyes widened. He had worked diligently for 13 years in the company, and this was his first private interaction with Wang Zhenhui. Jingtong's group structure was well established with strict hierarchy in the management. He could contact Wang Zhenhui within the company's internal system, but only through a work number, not a private one. At Wang Zhenhui's level, he had already achieved financial freedom and was a major figure in the logistics industry. With the backing of the group, he also had significant connections in the internet sector. Each circle has its barriers, and without being part of the industry or having someone to introduce you, it's nearly impossible to integrate into the circle. Li Ming connecting with Wang Zhenhui and being recognized by him meant he had a chance to enter the logistics circle and even meet people from the internet sector. Wei Zhen was envious and emotional. After struggling for 13 years in Jingtong and not being able to connect with Wang Zhenhui, Li Ming, on his first meeting, was already recognized. The gap between people is indeed larger than the gap between people and dogs. Wang Lijuan and Yan Yu were also surprised, not expecting Li Ming to gain recognition from such a prominent figure. Jiangcheng was not small, but its top circles were limited. Wei Zhen was somewhat well known in Jiangcheng,
but Wang Jinhui was a powerful figure beyond the city. At this moment, Wang Jinhui, with a gentle smile, said, "Ha, Li Ming, we at Dingtong refer to each other as brothers and sisters. You can call me Brother Hui, just like we call our boss Donggu, to make it more familiar."
Donggu? The Donggu he mentioned was probably Lu Chandong, the founder of Jingtong. Li Ming was momentarily taken aback.
Regardless of their differences in wealth and status, Wang Jinhui was 2 generations older than him, and yet he wanted Li Ming to address him as a brother. Li Ming was straightforward and laughed. "All right, Brother Hui.
I'll definitely visit you when I have time."
Wang Jinhui nodded, glanced at Wan Lijuan and Yang Yu, and then left with Wei Jin. From beginning to end, his purpose was Li Ming.
If it weren't for Li Ming, he wouldn't have come.
Wei Jin gave Wang Lijuan and Yang Yu a deep look, admiring their figures and demeanor, and felt puzzled.
He had just seen Li Ming arriving in Zhao Huiya's Porsche and thought Li Ming was dining with Zhao Huiya.
However, it turned out he was with 2 other mature women. Not only did he gain recognition from a big shot, but he was also surrounded by beautiful women and appeared robust. Wei Jin envied him more and more.
Clack clack clack. The slightly noisy restaurant suddenly echoed with the crisp sound of high heels on the floor.
Li Ming turned his head to see Zhao Huiya entering the restaurant. She wore a well-tailored black suit with a white shirt and a wine-red tie, simple yet elegant. Her black high heels clicked on the floor, her long black hair cascading over her shoulders, and her exquisite face had a different allure today. Her beauty and warmth were tinged with a hint of sternness, emitting an almost imperceptible aura. The moment she entered, the restaurant fell silent, and all eyes were on her.
She had changed into a new outfit so quickly? Li Ming sensed an inexplicable aura.
"Are you sure she's your driver?"
Yan Yu couldn't help but ask.
Wang Lijuan also scrutinized Zhao Huiya again, her peach blossom eyes showing doubt. She frowned and said, "She looks a bit familiar."
"She shouldn't be your driver, right?" Both women noticed the oddity. How could a driver possess such an aura and presence?
Li Ming helplessly said, "I never said she was my driver." At this moment, Wang Jinhui, who was about to take his seat, stopped and, with a smile, greeted Zhao Huiya warmly, "Ms. Zhou."
This surprised Wang Lijuan and Yang Yu even more. Wang Jinhui had not even glanced at them earlier, yet now he was actively greeting Zhao Huiya?
They looked at Li Ming with questions in their eyes.
"Li Ming, she's my boss."
Upon hearing this, Wang Lijuan's eyes widened in shock, as Zhao Huiya, after nodding at Wang Jinhui, ignored him and walked straight towards them. Zhao Huiya stood by the table, her calm and confident demeanor made her seem somewhat unfamiliar to Li Ming.
With a scrutinizing gaze, she glanced over Wang Lijuan and said, "Li Ming, are these your friends?" Zhao Huiya's question was intentional, she was clearly targeting Wang Lijuan. Li Ming pointed to the 2 women and introduced, "Auntie Zhao. This is Dr. Wang, and this is Dr. Yang." Zhao Huiya smiled slightly and said, "Oh?
The doctors you invited are quite good-looking."
Li Ming was speechless, picking up on the underlying meaning. She fixed her gaze on Wang Lijuan and said, "A doctor inviting you to dinner? Don't you find it strange?"
Her tone was calm, but Wang Lijuan sensed a hint of hostility. She felt uneasy, realizing that the powerful woman before her was not Li Ming's driver, but someone else entirely. She recalled and suddenly recognized the glamorous woman in front of her.
Li Ming called her Auntie Zhao? The surname Zhao.
In her mind, the figure she had heard about instantly matched the woman in front of her.
Wang Lijuan's eyes widened, and she stood up in shock, exclaiming, "Are you Ms. Zhao Huiya?" Zhao Huiya. At the mention of the name, Yang Yu and other customers around turned in surprise.
Zhao Huiya was a renowned name in Jiangchang, the president of the unicorn company SmartX, valued at tens of billions of dollars. She was a role model for many in the country. In other places, some might not have heard her name, but in Jiangchang, mentioning Zhao Huiya meant almost everyone knew her. She was undoubtedly a top star among Jiangchang's entrepreneurs, having founded a unicorn company at just over 30.
Wang Lijuan and Yan Yu exchanged glances, their hearts shaken.
They had speculated about Li Ming's identity, thinking he was just a wealthy second-generation heir with millions. But to their surprise, Li Ming knew someone as high-profile as Zhao Huiya, worth over 100 billion.
The entire room fell silent, eyes on Li Ming and Zhao Huiya, scrutinizing them back and forth. What was Li Ming's relationship with this star entrepreneur? Why did he call her auntie? Wang Lijuan blinked, took a deep breath. Zhao Huiya's appearance had indeed thrown her off.
Many of the hospital's equipment and projects were procured from SmartX, and if she angered Zhao Huiya, she could be kicked out of Jiangcheng at any time. Her initial intention was to passionately pursue Li Ming, to cling to him and revive her life. But unexpectedly, she had just begun to approach Li Ming when she encountered two towering figures.
Li Ming's connections and background were far more impressive than she had imagined. This was not just a thigh to cling to, it was a towering tree, impossible to hold onto. If she persisted and offended Zhao Huiya and Wang Jinhui, she would have no way to continue in Jiangcheng. Zhao Huiya looked at Wang Lijuan and said, "Do you know me?" Wang Lijuan, looking guilty, forced a smile and said, "I didn't realize you were Mr. Li Ming's driver. I'm really sorry for not recognizing you immediately."
As a woman, Zhao Huiya understood women's thoughts and saw through Wang Lijuan's intentions immediately. Zhao Huiya did not look at her again, just said to Li Ming, "I hope my sudden arrival isn't disturbing you, Li Ming." Before Li Ming could respond, Wang Lijuan nervously said, No, Ms.
Zhao. Would you like to join us?" Zhao Huiya gave Wang Lijuan a dismissive glance and said, "Sure."
Wang Lijuan, showing great understanding, stood up and said, "Please sit here, I'll join Dr.
Young."
Li Ming was slightly astonished. Auntie Zhao was even more influential than he had imagined. At this moment, Zhao Huiya gave her first smile since entering, warm and confident, and gently said, "Li Ming, you go ahead and sit."
Li Ming, feeling odd, took his seat.
Zhao Huiya sat beside him and smiled as she reminded, "When making friends, you must be discerning."
Li Ming understood she was referring to Wang Lijuan. As expected, he saw Wang Lijuan fidgeting, and Yang Yu was unsure how to react. The two women seemed like timid rabbits facing a fierce tiger when meeting Zhao Huiya. Chapter 30, The Rules of Human Relations. Who exactly is Li Ming? He actually knows two top entrepreneurs. Zhao Huiya was also surprised, saying, "Oh? Mr. Wang and Li Ming know each other?"
Wang Jinhui laughed and replied, "Not just know each other, he even calls me Brother Hui." Li Ming, showing respect, smiled and said, "He calls me little brother." Zhao Huiya, seeming thoughtful, nodded and lightly asked, "Li Ming, you're becoming more and more intriguing.
How many more things are you hiding from me?" Li Ming shook his head and said, "There's absolutely nothing I'm hiding from you." Li Ming understood that Wang Jinhui's presence was likely to discuss the SmartX project. He wanted to leverage his connection with Zhao Huiya. Wang Lijuan's intentions were even more obvious, she was clearly after him. Li Ming mentally sorted out his thoughts.
Apart from Zhao Huiya, who might genuinely want to help him, everyone else seemed to be pursuing their own interests. The interactions between people are primarily about mutual benefits. Li Ming saw this very clearly. Li Ming smiled and said, "Brother Hui, Auntie Zhao, Auntie Wang. Since we are all friends, let's sit down and have a good chat." Upon hearing this, Wang Jinhui immediately responded enthusiastically, "Great. That's a good suggestion. I'll treat everyone to this meal." Zhao Huiya didn't say anything, but Wang Lijuan smiled and said, "Today I was planning to treat Li Ming. There's no need for you to spend money." Li Ming could tell that Wang Lijuan not only wanted to flirt with him but also sought to impress Zhao Huiya and Wang Jinhui. This woman was not simple. Once she had a clear goal, her execution was very strong. "No need. This meal is on me." Wang Jinhui insisted without room for disagreement. Before Wang Lijuan could say anything more, he instructed, "Waiter, please change us to a private room." The waiter, who had been standing nervously not far away, finally dared to approach. It wasn't just him who was afraid, even the restaurant owner straightened up, silently observing the concern was understandable, as Zhao Huiya's name alone was enough to carry significant weight in Jiangcheng. If Zhao Huiya had a bad experience in the restaurant or found fault, it would be enough to make the restaurant suffer. The waiter quickly led Li Ming and his group to the second floor, into the Chunfeng Pavilion private room. He said, "This is a small gesture from the owner of Weiji Restaurant. I hope Mr. Zhao and Mr. Wang won't mind." Li Ming marveled at the complexity of social dynamics. Those who have made a name for themselves in society are rarely simple, and they handle interpersonal relations with great skill. Yang Yu and Wei Jin also sat down, clearly positioning themselves around Li Ming, with Zhao Huiya and Wang Lijuan on either side. Wang Jinhui said, "Ms. Zhao, I didn't expect that after the project meeting, we'd be able to sit together again. This is all thanks to Li Ming." Zhao Huiya replied, "Mr. Wang, let's not discuss work matters over dinner." As he was about to bring up the project, Zhao Huiya cut him off directly, and Wang Jinhui sighed internally, thinking how impressive she was.
He smiled and said, right, it was my oversight.
Wang Zhenhui then changed the subject, saying, Li Ming, I heard from Weijin that you haven't graduated yet, right?
When you do, you must come to our company for an internship. Zhao Huiya smiled slightly and said, Mr. Wang, it doesn't seem appropriate for you to poach my employees in front of me. Wang Zhenhui laughed, we're just cultivating Li Ming together.
I believe he has great talent in logistics.
Li Ming politely smiled and said, Brother Hui, you flatter me. Chapter 31, The $1 Million Contract. At 8:10 p.m., Starbucks. Across from Li Ming and Zhao Huiya sat a bold young woman.
She was dressed in a black leather jacket and a cropped tank top, with ripped skinny jeans and Martin boots. Her multicolored dyed short hair and purple-red lipstick were striking. She tilted her head slightly, looked at Li Ming, and then grinned, Minggu, I'm Ao Ching.
Nice to meet you again.
She extended her pale hand with purple-red nail polish adorned with glitter.
Li Ming shook her hand and was surprised, Ao Ching? That name suits your personality.
I'm just curious why you decided to switch jobs. At these words, Ao Ching glanced at Zhao Huiya.
Her exquisitely made-up face revealed admiration as she said, Ms. Zhao offered too much.
4 days on, 3 days off, with 5 insurances and 6 benefits. Every holiday comes with a $1,000 bonus.
It's amazing.
At Flower Brothers Trashy Company, it was 6 days on, 1 day off, and they didn't even provide insurance. They made me work overtime for free.
It was truly awful.
I'll work with whoever treats me well, so I came to Ms.
Zhao, who has always been my idol. Hearing Ao Ching's criticism of Flower Brother, Li Ming couldn't help but smile. The girl with the striking personality was the photographer for the internet celebrity Flower Brother.
He remembered her from that night. Despite her constant filming, her colorful hair made her unforgettable. He hadn't expected Zhao Huiya to be so bold, directly poaching Ao Ching. What surprised him even more was Zhao Huiya's generous offer to Ao Ching. Was there something exceptional about her? Zhao Huiya smiled and said, Ao Ching, why don't you introduce yourself? Ao Ching raised her chin slightly and said, Sister Hui, Minggu, I'm Ao Ching, from Haijiang Art University's media department.
I graduated this July. Over my 4 years in college, I created 23 trending topics. Flower Brother, an internet celebrity, went from 100,000 followers to 1.8 million with my help.
I interned at Sanjiyang Company, where I planned various live streams and short video shoots, and had 2 trending topics. The reasons I joined SmartX are the good benefits and the shorter working hours. My goal is to fulfill Ms.
Zhao's tasks and build SmartX's corporate account.
She then looked a bit embarrassed and said, I didn't recognize Ms. Zhao that night, so I collaborated with Flower Brother for publicity. I'm really sorry.
She actually had such strength?
Li Ming realized why Zhao Huiya was keen on recruiting her.
Li Ming smiled and said, it's all water under the bridge.
No need to worry about it. When it came to fighting, Ao Ching suddenly looked up at Li Ming. Her purple-red lips trembled slightly as she said, You almost disabled Flower Brother. If you hadn't made a statement with your ID cards, you might have ended up in a worse situation. Even now, Ao Ching was still shocked by Li Ming's punch.
Chapter 32, You Should Apologize. I've been working here for 8 years, handling logistics, and am familiar with all the company's operations. Our direct superior is Ms. Zhao.
According to the plan, today I will guide you through the company environment and major business operations. There will be corresponding assessments after the training, and poor performance will affect your evaluation.
Understood? Understood. Li Ming and Ao Ching nodded.
Xu Xiong said coldly, Today, besides our new department's training, there will also be a batch of fresh graduates. They will join various departments in the company, but the company culture and basic business training will be together.
Keep up.
Saying this, Xu Xiong led the way.
Li Ming and Ao Ching followed silently, sensing a hint of hostility from Xu Xiong.
Strange, he didn't even know Xu Xiong.
10 minutes later.
The 3 of them arrived on the 17th floor of the building and entered a training room. Upon entering, Li Ming saw that over 100 people were already seated. They all looked very young and gave off a sense of hostility and disdain upon seeing Li Ming and Ao Ching. They were all wearing light green short-sleeve shirts with the SmartX logo embroidered on the chest. Each desk had a bottle of water, some snacks, and a name tag. At the front was a huge screen with the SmartX building as the background and the themed SmartX Star Freshman Training. When Li Ming and Ao Ching entered, all eyes were on them, scrutinizing and curious. Xu Xiong's voice was strong as he said, "Find a seat." Without waiting for Li Ming and Ao Qing, he walked straight up to the podium. Li Ming then noticed the PPT slide listed the main speaker, Xu Xiong, head of the logistics department, group leader of the promotion and planning department.
Training began. Under the gaze of over 100 people,
Li Ming and Ao Qing scanned the room, looking for a seat. They found that all the seats were single desks, and there was no place for the two of them. Their shirts stood out in the sea of light green, making them feel out of place. Noticing their awkward situation, many of the attendees displayed expressions of watching a show, seemingly eager to see them make a fool of themselves. Li Ming sensed something was wrong and frowned slightly. At this moment, he looked at Ao Qing and saw she was clearly displeased. Li Ming turned back, about to ask where there were chairs and desks. Suddenly, Xu Xiong scolded, "You two are 45 minutes late. Come up and introduce yourselves, then apologize to everyone." Hearing this, Li Ming confirmed that Xu Xiong was targeting them.
Last night, Zhao Huiya mentioned another team member would add them on WeChat and that they should follow his arrangements.
After adding him, Xu Xiong only sent a message saying 8 o'clock, main entrance.
Li Ming arrived at the entrance at 7:45, and Ao Qing arrived at 7:50. They hadn't been informed about the training details, there were no work groups, and they were left waiting without any prior notice. Chapter 33, Who else wants to stop me?
They were all incredulous that Li Ming was late for so long.
And now he dared to demand an apology from Xu Xiong with such audacity? You want me to apologize?
Xu Xiong was also stunned. Li Ming actually dared to name him and ask for an apology. As a veteran in the workplace, Xu Xiong had oppressed or manipulated countless subordinates over the years. There had been others who stood up to him, but they were usually those who had endured long-term manipulation and were ready to leave.
Most people just swallowed their grievances and endured.
As a department head, though he didn't have the authority to move personnel around, he could look after his subordinates within his power, making it easy to make life uncomfortable for those he disliked. Most people would just put up with it, listening to his lectures. Newcomers often lacked courage, and longtime employees, fearing for their jobs and their families, were even less likely to confront him.
Some young female colleagues, after long-term manipulation and care, would end up unable to distinguish between life and work, ultimately becoming submissive.
After company team-building events and drinking, he could take advantage of their subconscious compliance. From holding hands to bed in under an hour, then recording videos, taking photos, it all came naturally. Usually, for the sake of their families, children, and income, these women chose to tolerate and even comply with him. By continuing to use videos to blackmail them, he could make them his long-term partners. Xu Xiong knew well that many respectable married women had some moral boundaries and chastity. However, these values would gradually erode under the work and performance pressures he created. Their compliance would become a habit, and this habit of crying was his most powerful weapon. If they had conflicts at home, it would be even easier for him to handle them. Xu Xiong had summarized a unique and effective method for workplace manipulation and unwritten rules. Over the years, whether with new university graduates or respectable married women, he frequently succeeded. If a woman needed something from him, it was even easier for him to handle her.
Colleagues' girlfriends, colleagues' wives.
All were his favorites. If any woman wanted to dispute with him, he would cut off contact directly, aiming to take advantage for free. Young male subordinates were trickier, but he had ways to deal with them too. That was performance pressure and work pressure, constantly demeaning them in meetings and other settings. When they showed signs of depression and wanted to leave, he would find them alone and offer to guide them. After a barbecue and a drink to establish a brotherly relationship, these young newcomers would become emotionally involved and foolishly see him as a brother, becoming his loyal lackeys unknowingly. However, he had never encountered someone like Li Ming, who came right up and clashed with him head-on. For someone to make the vice president personally step in and address Li Ming by name, it was clear Li Ming was someone exceptional. Xu Xiong sneered inwardly.
He had seen many big scenes before. Bang!
Xu Xiong slammed his fist on the podium and said with frustration, "Li Ming, you're still so arrogant after being late? I'm asking you to come up and apologize to give you a chance to make amends and change the negative impression others have of you. And yet you're causing a scene here, with no sense of decorum as a senior. I'm giving you a chance, a way out.
And you dare to bite back?"
Sighing, Xu Xiong continued, "Li Ming, listen to my advice. Apologize to your classmates and admit your mistakes. Tonight, let's have a barbecue and have a good talk. Nothing is insurmountable." After hearing Xu Xiong's words, Li Ming squinted his eyes, witnessing what shamelessness truly was.
Xu Xiong was even trying to manipulate him?
The new department had Li Ming and Chu Xiong as peers, with only Zhao Huiya as the direct superior. For work-related matters, only Zhao Huiya could command him.
Chu Xiong not only wanted to control his work but also dared to comment on his character, directly labeling him as a villain.
Chu Xiong was even more shameless than the flower brother he had encountered before, with deeper scheming and calculation. From the moment they met, Chu Xiong began using his authority to set traps for him, escalating to personal attacks and character insults, and even trying to manipulate him. His intentions were clearly malicious. Suppressing his anger, Li Ming said, "Chu Xiong, I don't know why you're targeting me, but you have no right to dictate to me." Upon hearing this, Chu Xiong was momentarily stunned.
His contempt for Li Ming lessened slightly, but what could a newcomer do against him? The vice president had said that Li Ming was just a dropout internet celebrity, with the only difference being his internet celebrity status.
Chu Xiong pointed at Li Ming and lectured, "Everyone, Li Ming has wasted so much of your time and is so rude and uncouth. Don't learn from him, this is a big taboo in the workplace.
Arrogant and conceited people won't last long."
As soon as he finished speaking, the graduates, who were already a bit angry and confused, started to get agitated.
Chu Xiong is right. I don't know how this person even passed the interview. Ha! He really thinks he's here to reform the workplace? Ha! Someone like him, with no manners, wants to reform the workplace?
That's laughable. What a scum, he doesn't know how to appreciate kindness and keeps digging his own grave.
Li Ming didn't say anything more. He didn't want to continue arguing with Chu Xiong.
The more he said, the more traps Chu Xiong could set for him. He decided to go directly to Zhao Huiya and let her handle it. Ignoring the group of agitated young people manipulated by Chu Xiong, he said to Ao Qing, "Let's go." Turning decisively, the two walked towards the door.
Hiss.
Seeing Li Ming so rational, neither engaging in conversation nor being provoked but choosing to leave directly, Chu Xiong felt it was troublesome. His original plan was to make things difficult for Li Ming, anticipating that both Li Ming and Ao Cheng would choose to endure. He intended to gradually manipulate them, making them submit to him and work matters in the future. However, Li Ming was not buying into this.
He barked, "Stop."
Ao Cheng instinctively halted and looked back, but seeing Li Ming still striding forward, she quickly followed.
Chu Xiong immediately turned to a few students sitting by the door and said, "Li Ming, you really don't know what's good for you.
Close the door and stop them." Hearing this, a few angry graduates rushed forward, slamming the door shut with a thud. They blocked Li Ming and Ao Cheng's path, saying angrily, "The teacher told you to stop."
Didn't you hear? Chapter 34, Visiting Auntie's House Tonight. Unlike these naive graduates, Zhao Huiya didn't go straight to complain. With a silent gaze, Zhao Huiya's eyes swept over everyone.
The invisible aura instantly calmed the agitated graduates. She then said, "Everyone, don't worry.
Whoever caused this matter will be responsible for it."
Her beautiful face showed no emotion as she walked slowly to Li Ming. In the expectant gaze of the many graduates, she actually took Li Ming's hand.
Noticing that Li Ming's hand was scraped, she frowned and asked in front of everyone, "Does it hurt?" Everyone was dumbfounded. Wasn't she supposed to mediate? Why was President Zhao concerned about Li Ming instead?
Li Ming chuckled and said, "Auntie Zhao, it doesn't hurt, just a bit unpleasant."
Auntie Zhao?
Hearing Li Ming address the president as auntie, Chu Xiong was instantly stunned, his gaze involuntarily shifting to Vice President Chu Shanha. Chu Shanha also came up to Li Ming, expressing concern, "It's good that you're okay." Then, he suddenly raised his head and stared sternly at Chu Xiong, saying, "Chu Xiong, what's going on? You were asked to lead a training session, and such a thing happens. Do you not know that Li Ming is an important employee of our company? This must be clarified today, or you can forget about being the head of the logistics department." Hearing the vice president's severe questioning, the graduates were even more bewildered. Li Ming's backing was actually Zhao Huiya and Chu Shanha? They gasped and fell silent, their faces showing concern. Especially the initially outspoken, thin-eyed guy, who now looked at Li Ming with some fear. Chu Xiong, upon hearing this, had his mind racing. The vice president was giving him a chance to explain. He was also sure he wouldn't be dismissed by Zhao Huiya. After all, he was appointed by the board of directors, and he wouldn't throw Chu Shanha under the bus. Chu Xiong took a few steps forward, showing an apologetic expression. "President Zhao, this was my mistake. I heard that Li Ming has extraordinary strength, so I took it upon myself to deliberately provoke him to make him explode in response without his knowledge. I intentionally didn't inform him about the details. Chu Xiong recounted the entire process of the incident, word for word, very objectively.
He sincerely and apologetically said, "President Zhao, I didn't expect my foolish actions would cause Li Ming to get hurt and lead to misunderstandings among the students." After listening, the more
than 100 graduates turned their heads, looking at Chu Xiong in disbelief.
Had they all been fooled? Li Ming was actually in the right.
This reversal left them astonished.
Zhao Huiye glanced at Chu Xiong and then asked, "So it was all a misunderstanding?"
Chu Xiong nodded and, with a serious bow, said to Li Ming, "Yes, President Zhao." "Li Ming, I'm really sorry for the misunderstanding earlier. It was caused by me, this big brother, and I sincerely apologize. I hope you can forgive me."